Hello and welcome to the Pens and Pixels Popcast. I'm your host, Cal G, and to my left is the coordinator extraordinaire,
Mike Kent.
The Popcast is the place to come to if you want to hear about the art and news of video games, comics, and movies that week.
And I gotta figure out a new tag phrase.
You gotta figure out a new catchphrase. We are no longer delving into celebrity pop culture.
No.
We're done with that. We're done with all that nonsense.
Yes.
We can talk about comic news in this segment if you want instead. Maybe Venom news exclusively. There's been a thing released where it says Marvel released it. It's called Edge of the Venomverse. And at first it just looked like it was a poster. Like it looked like Venom, a bunch of fucking Venoms all over the poster. But then the guy teased like there might be something more to it. So now we're thinking, is there like a
multiverse of
Venoms? Like there's the whole Spider-Verse, right? Wouldn't Venoms be in the Spider-Verse though?
Yeah.
If there's all these different Spider-Man, they have
just be the Venoms from the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Ideally, right?
Yeah. Which really, at the end of the day, doesn't make a very good selection though, because there's a lot of bad ones.
I mean, yeah. I'm just wondering what they're gonna do. I think they're gonna retcon the whole. He's a Clintar from a different planet, and they're actually used for good, but then they got corrupted. I think they're gonna try and retcon all that shit.
Do you remember the 2099 series of comics?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. Did you like them?
Yeah, but I only really read them as a kid, and then I didn't really understand what was going on.
I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah,
like is this the future, or is this like a guaranteed future? But then I was like, what happened to Xavier? Why did everything fuck up? I guess it just means everything fails. But apparently, it's just some alternate future. Like it has nothing to do.
Yeah, it's like nothing.
Yeah, it's just literally like 200 years in an alternate timeline.
Yeah, but it confused the fuck out of me as a kid.
So I agree with that part, but like I love Spider-Man 2099's design.
I think it's cool.
Design. Did they have a Venom 2099?
They did. He kind of looked stupid.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I didn't really follow.
It was okay, but yeah, he didn't look great.
But like the X-Men 29, I hated all of them.
A lot of the 2099 designs look bad.
I like the villain designs were kind of cool, but like the actual X-Men of 2099, I was like, fuck, Jesus, these people.
I think also Spider-Man 2099 has like poison in his hands.
Yeah.
Or tips, his claws.
Those little claw things he had.
Yeah, they're poison.
Did he have poison?
I think so.
I thought he had like that's Miles Morales. He had like a neural shock.
He has a spider sting or something stupid. Anyways, this week on the Popcast, we're going to go down the news you need to know about. And then after the break, what?
It's such a uncreative method. Like, he has spider powers. What's his special spider power? He stings.
He stings?
Like,
that's all I got.
You couldn't go anywhere else more interesting. Couldn't like look up all the spiders in the world and figure out what interesting power they could get from any one of them.
Well, I mean, as far as spiders go, all you got is like those fucking spiders that have they trap you in their web, right? Which he already can do. He has webs and hands.
You're talking to me like you're the expert. What is it? Arachnologist.
Ah, that's good. Yeah. I would have said spiderology. No, but I mean, I feel like I would have known about like a spider that did something more unique than just be a shitty thing with 8 legs.
There are more unique versions. Yes.
Okay, but not any that do anything more than like sting or build webs. You know what I mean? Like they all do variations of webs. There's the trapdoor spider, which again, like, what are they gonna do? This Spider-Man mostly digs holes and hides in them. Like, I don't know.
Hiding in a garbage can.
Yeah, like he does shit like that. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know where else you go with that.
This homeless man just jumped me.
And after the break, we're going to be doing the top 5 animes that each of us have watched or seen.
That's our top 5 anime, top 10 anime list in total for the podcast. But Cal and I'll pick my top 5. Cal will pick his top 5, and then you can judge us.
Anime recommendations. Get ready to judge.
Yep.
Mostly me. Mike has far better taste, I'm sure. Okay, is there any Pens and Pixels housekeeping you have?
A little bit. Just to let everyone know that we're going to be at CGX. Which is the Capital Game Expo for 2017. We're doing the art gallery there, so it's going to be artists in a gallery.
Fascinating. But tell me more.
Yeah. Basically what it is, though, we actually have some open booths. So it'll be free booths to anyone who applies. Send it to meetpensandpixels@gmail.com and send in a link to some of your work or a portfolio so that we can, we're judging the quality of what we're going to present. And then you can get a free booth. It's a 6-foot table and like a metal grid booth actually set up for you, and a print done by Canvas Pop. That's a canvas print done digitally, so it's they look beautiful every time I've ever gotten one.
Mm-hmm.
So send your stuff in and apply for that. There's still a bunch of tables left, so go ahead and send it in. And also, Cal and I will be there at the CGX, and we'll actually be hosting a booth together, and we will be hosting a little portion of it for the podcast itself. So if you guys want to meet us, will be there.
Duo booth.
Duo booth.
Dual booth.
Duo booth?
Which one sounds better? Dual booth doesn't roll off the tongue.
Oh.
Duo booth.
Boothwool?
But yeah. Come meet us and have your dreams shattered.
Woodle.
All right.
Your dreams shattered. Yeah. I think they look like this. Oh, God.
What is that? All right.
Why did it leave its house?
It's so white. Like a grub. All right. On to the newsy news. Mike!
Mm-hmm.
Shane Black has been in the news again.
Hooray!
Actually, not so much. I've just been creeping his Twitter. I follow him, and you can follow him too at Bonafide Black on Twitter.
Oh, God, really? Is that actually his Twitter handle?
Yes, he is at Bonafide Black. I think that's actually pretty good. I like that a lot. Anyway, so he on February 7th tweeted out, anybody who thinks a pretty lady can't fuck a predator's day, fuck up a predator's day, hasn't met this one yet. And then he posts a picture.
Many of us have wondered what fucking a predator would look like, so it's totally acceptable.
It is acceptable. Then he posts a picture of Olivia Munn. And some random, I'll give you a shout out here, Allied Agent on Twitter. Perhaps if the predator was physical and not CG, she could actually see it to kick its ass. Just saying. And as we reported last week, there was a bit of news about the predators were going to be CG, all CG in this one.
Yeah,
and
very clearly stated we're doing all CG.
Yeah, it was part of the whole thing. And Shane Black said, "Don't believe everything you read." ...
Oh.
So there's a little bit of madness to start off the week.
What the fuck?
What is going on? What is going on in this man's life?
What things matter and what things are things?
What keeps getting what wires are crossing where he's not getting his full statements out, or
I like that you just stopped in basically a profile picture of him, just staring at us, going, "What?"
I was creeping the rest of his Twitter here.
Yeah.
He said guest director for the day, #the Predator, and there's a dog in the director's seat. So maybe that's the magic that happens behind his movies. His dog actually does it.
So we put stuff out and he's like, which one do you like? Whichever one he sniffs, just changes course to that one.
That's how he edits his scenes. Which one, boy? Oh, all right.
Halfway through the scene, a dog barks. Nope, he doesn't like that. We're done.
We're done. Which is also what some producers must have said to Guillermo del Toro, as Hellboy 3 is dead, guys.
Mm-hmm. Which is sad, but okay.
Sure. I mean, I never really counted on it happening. Although, in the last little while, Guillermo did that thing. He did a poll on Twitter where if 100,000 people voted yes or whatever, he would at least talk to people in charge. Mm-hmm. And he's come back true to his word and said, Hellboy 3, sorry to report, spoke with all parties, must report that 100% the sequel will not happen, and that is to be the final thing about it.
But to be as solid as that, I think that's just him literally saying, it's literally never going to happen.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting that someone wouldn't take up another comic book franchise.
Yeah, especially now, because Hellboy was back in the day. Hellboy was, 2008? Hellboy 2 was 2008.
2008. But the whole Hellboy thing was in the days of Daredevil and fucking Hulk and all that shit.
No, exactly. It hadn't really taken off yet, right? That's the surprising thing. You'd think now that everyone would just be trying to secure as many... Yeah, Golden Army, 2008. Yeah. You think they'd be trying to secure as much shit as they can to get on this train. Mm-hmm. I mean, the train might be exiting the station. We don't know yet, but, just kind of surprising someone would be that... diplomatic about it, but I appreciate it at the same time.
Yeah, but I'm not destroyed by this. I mean, I would like to see Ron Perlman reenact the Hellboy again.
It's almost 10 years later. I didn't think it was going to happen anyway, so,
And I don't know if I cared enough. I cared. I would have liked to have seen it. I would have been like, hey, hooray, Hellboy 3.
Absolutely.
But, at the same time, I'm I don't really know if they captured it in the movie and whether or not I really... really, at the end of the day, again, as per usual, all I care about is getting Del Toro to just start doing his visuals.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he's not making movies anymore. I'm sure he has 67 projects falling out of all his pockets right now.
But all of Del Toro's work hasn't been a visual menagerie as of late. In the way that, he gets to make a lot of little cool monsters. Not that, Pacific Rim or anything like that wasn't a visual. That's the wrong word. He has worked on grand visual stuff, but he hasn't had stuff where he's had the kind of reign to go in and make a bunch of monsters, i.e. his, his little collection of monsters that he has and all that shit. I want more of those. His Pan Labyrinth, his Hellboys, his, little creepy, weird monsters that reinvented concept art as a standard of what certain things would be drawn like,
influencing it for the rest of time.
Yeah,
with the mandibles.
Yeah,
shit like that.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. The no eyes thing and some sort of plate going over, or weird scrawny things that never happened before, fat things with grease and goop on them, and things you've never ever seen before. And you're like, what is this mind and this world that's coming from? he doesn't have franchises that lean so much towards that. I mean, like the kaijus are iconic, and they definitely have like their thing, but there were like 6 of them.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
well, soon to probably be 12.
Yes.
In the new movie.
But
again, I don't know. I actually don't know how much he has to do with the next movie. Like, he's producing it, but I don't know if he's like sitting down and drawing them like he did in the last one,
probably
and being
not.
like, make this live, you know, like that kind of thing.
It's probably not. That's the thing.
It might be just someone trying to like copy his style or whatever. Yeah. Although those new robots from Pacific Rim 2 straight up just look like Gundams and Evangelion robots and stuff, and I was like, that's dope.
Yep.
All right. We're pouring one out for you, Hellboy 3. All right, let's get into the DC clusterfuck for this week. Good news, I guess, starting off. The Batman, Matt Reeves closes deal to direct and produce. After last week's reports of after they courted him, and then they had to leave the discussions because things got heated and they needed to like cool off or whatever. And that's basically it. Ben Affleck's still going to star in it, as far as I know, or as far as they're saying.
No, he's definitely in this.
Yeah,
like, he's got no choice now.
We're thrilled to have Matt Reeves taking the helm of Batman, the crown jewel of our DC slate. Matt's deep roots in genre films and his evolution towards blah, 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 blah. Matt Reeves is great. He made the last Planet of the Apes movie, which I really enjoyed. And he's making the next one, which is probably going to be really good.
What else did he do? He did other good stuff.
I'm sure he has, but do I care as much about Planet of the Apes? No. We can check it out.
Not everyone cares about Planet of the Apes as much as you care about
I know, but they really should. They really should. I know movies do well, but I've just never like literally met anyone in person that actually cares about them.
Right, it was Cloverfield.
Right, that's right.
Stuff like that, yeah. He's a good director, and like his name is tied to mostly quality work, so yeah, totally down with him being in charge of this. It's not the problem.
I wonder that like how DC courted him and how things got heated so quickly, like in the first meeting.
Like how much of him is invested in this at this point, where he's just like, all right, I can't turn down your $150 million.
Yeah, and like did they just like start throwing money at him after like he left last time?
Go into his like fucking trailer and start wiping his ass with like script paper and walk out and be like, here.
He's like, it's a DC movie. How big of a hit does my career want to take?
Yeah.
David Ayer made a good film last time, and then he made Suicide Squad. I'm just gonna release War of the Planet of the Apes, and then I'm gonna release the worst Batman movie ever made.
I think I could do it. I think I could do it.
All right. So next up, the Lego Batman director Chris McKay is reportedly going to direct a Nightwing movie. They're running before they can walk over there at DC.
Oh my God.
I feel like.
Why are they planning anything at this point? I mean, anything outside of the franchises they've currently launched. Why are they launching another one? Nightwing's not the worst character to pick. Not the worst. There's lots of other worse DC characters.
For sure. Yeah.
But, like...
What are you doing?
Why? Why Nightwing?
You haven't done anything good yet. Like,
and you've never really interjected Robin into the Batman films except for one bad movie.
Except for way back when.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess, yeah, what's his face? Well, he was going to become the new Batman,
like,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah. But everyone knows Batman and Robin, right?
For sure.
But no one knows the history of Robin, that there is a lot of them, you know, like Batman collects his boys. And
hear me out on this. Do you think this is maybe like a... they think the DC universe is going to tank, but maybe Batman has hope, so they want to...
Make a Bat universe?
Make a Bativerse where they have the whole Bat family. They got Batwoman, and they got Batgirl, they got fucking... You know,
totally.
And it's just like a Bat... Palooza. You know what I mean? Like, it might be like they might try to save it through that, and they just keep pushing off everything else. And we're like, what about Wonder Woman 2? They're like, oh yeah, it's
completely, totally. But the thing is none of those people can carry a franchise, a film franchise on their own. Comic book wise, we're totally down with it because we just want more Arkham, right? At the end of the day, but the world is not going to take anything else other than Batman because they don't want to have to invest into other Bat characters, and that's the other thing as well is. Like, they get why Batman's cool. He's this story of why he is the way he is and why he can do what he does, and we can believe that. But the idea that he just trained a bunch of other people who aren't nearly as tormented...
He trained, like, 7 others.
Yeah.
There's a pretty big Bat family at this point.
That's the thing, right? Like, why is it that, like, is Batwoman, like, better than Batman? Is Nightwing, like, better than Batman?
No, we have Red Hood, we got Nightwing, we got Red Robin, we have Robin, we have Batwoman, we got Batgirl, we got Batman himself. Mm-hmm. Am I missing anybody?
And all the Robins.
And, well, I mean, yeah, all the Robins, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the thing, is like, why, they're not characters powerful enough to carry anything on their own, and the mass populace is not going to believe it.
I mean, I think anything could happen. I mean, when Nightwing could take off, and, like, it was a good enough movie, but, like, I just don't see the initial drawing being good enough, unless it's basically like a Nightwing featuring Batman movie, you know what I mean?
Even though the selected characters that we've done for all the films we have right now are all characters that have some sort of, like, pull, I guess, or like some sort of fame. Like even Guardians of the Galaxy, which was when it first happened, I'm like, whoa, that's the barrel. You know, like you're real. You reached way down and skipped a whole bunch to get down there.
Yes.
You know, but still, the characters themselves, by picking the right version of Guardians of the Galaxy, not just the Starhawk version, but the Star-Lord version, that was the right one. And they did it to try and like kind of expand the universe into something different. Totally worked, right? But it was a shot in the dark.
Totally.
Right? However, there's still a base, and there's a base for all of them that's happened so far, right? Doctor Strange is huge, been around forever, Iron Man, blah, 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 down the list. DC hasn't even gotten through its A-list roster. Why is it going into, like, the C-list?
I don't know. Because someone's looking at that lineup with all those scripts, and they're like, this is not good.
No.
And that's another one!
Keep making them. One will hit.
Yeah, like, just keep throwing everything at the wall. Eventually you hit the middle. Alright, next up is... Alright, Simon Kinberg is in talks to direct X-Men Dark Phoenix Saga movie.
Nothing but, like, bad versions of hero stuff.
Do you realize... Here's what I've realized after cultivating the news this week. We get a lot of DC news. We get a lot of Marvel news on the side that we don't care about as much. Yeah. Marvel keeps tight-lipped. Like, they release what they want, and nothing really leaks that much about Infinity War, the stuff we actually care about. But we're getting a bunch of stuff where it's like, there's a new fucking X-Men, and Batman's going down the sewer, and, like, all this shit. Like,
yeah, we don't even have the slate for what... Because, like, they're keeping the slate tied to ending at Infinity War, so they're not telling us, like, here's the lineup for what's happening after.
Yeah.
We know exactly what movies are coming and when.
Yeah.
And they're just like, wait for a trailer.
Yeah. That's it. They're just tight-lipped about it. Nothing really leaks, or rarely leaks anyways. And we just have all this fucking news every week about, like, here's the Dark Saga Phoenix. Okay. Anyways. Yeah. Even though I'm kind of bitching about it, this could actually be cool. Because I feel like they've toyed with the Phoenix stuff in the movies, but they've never actually dedicated enough to it to actually do it justice. You know what I mean?
Well, no, they've touched. So they did Dark Phoenix for the third movie.
The third X-Men movie, which was terrible.
The worst. And then they brought the Phoenix back in...
For Apocalypse, you said, right?
Yeah. So they did the whole thing, like, Jean was keeping something contained, and then Xavier woke it up in her, and then she did literal Phoenix, though, which was the only good thing in that whole movie, where she literally just walked out and there was a flaming bird around her kind of thing. Like, I was like, yes, thank God. Like, just looking right.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, if you actually did, like, a trilogy of X-Men movies that were, like, the Dark Phoenix Saga, like, that could actually be really dope.
It could be really dope, but the thing is you haven't set it up yet. So, like, I believe the Avengers are headed to space because I've spent 20 years with them, like, going from I built my suit, then I built better suits, now I'm an Avenger, now I learned that my Avenger suit wasn't good enough, built better suits, and blah, blah, blah. Like, and then, like, I know there's interstellar threats. There is something in space. That's something I need to prepare for, is a battle in space. We're going to get to space. Final battle in space, right? If you know the Dark Phoenix Saga, it literally takes place on, like, starships with a Shi'ar and a giant space force that is the burning force of creation in the galaxy.
Yes.
Like, and the MCON crystal, which is the crystal that contains the universe. I forget how that thing works.
Probably. Sure.
Yeah, I just know it's a crystal. You know, whatever. Like, scope beyond.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, if they spontaneously go from, you know, we're just mutants on Earth trying to fight for equality to space. Like,
yeah, no, you're not wrong. It is a little jarring if they did that in 3 movies, which the MCU did.
Which means
like
they're going to stick total to Earth. I mean, you could do the whole Dark Phoenix portion of the Dark Phoenix Saga where the Hellfire Club takes control of her.
That's what I was thinking. The one from the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that whole segment was earthbound and cool, but she got the Phoenix Force before that by going to space in a rocket. You know, like.
Well, how does she have it in the Apocalypse movie?
See, that's the thing. They make
she can just have it.
They keep on relating it back to the whole, like, it's just Jean Grey's power. Like, she's this Omega level mutant. You know, but I actually hate the whole Omega level mutant thing in X-Men comics.
Why?
Because
let's get into this. Why do you hate Omega level mutants?
2 things. Every single Omega level mutant's power. Well, not every single. There are a couple who are different, but most Omega level mutants just warping reality. Because by that point, the only thing that, like, you can cross is just like we all warp reality. And you're like, okay.
Iceman was an Omega level mutant for a while.
He was.
Which is also, I think, I kind of agree with you in a sense because, like, I feel like someone just one day, like, sat down and really logically thought about being able to control water, and he was like, water's in everything. He can control everything. He can control everything. stamp, Omega level. You know what I mean? Like, someone just, like, thought about it logically, like, where, he could do fucking anything.
Yeah. But even then, he was not quite as
He can shift between all the matter.
But then it started making all of that, like,
he's a gas, he's a solid, he's a.
But that also made the limit of Omega Mutants, like, how powerful of an Omega level mutant are you? Are you Franklin Richards, where you just, like, can wish reality into existence? Are you Legion, where you contain enough personalities that you have every power?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you, I forget, there's just one other one, there was like a psychic guy, but he just literally did warp. Are you Proteus, where you can just bend and manipulate matter?
I like Franklin Richards.
I like Franklin Richards a lot, actually. He was a good one. But the other thing that I dislike about them, though, is that, like, Omega level mutants, these mutants with all this power, all they ever are these giant things that are going to go insane that they have to fight or destroy.
Yeah.
Like, move on. Find something else. Like, I don't know. Don't give me this Omega level threat. Just give me, like, their powers are big. And it doesn't have to be reality warping. Iceman was a good Omega level mutant because it made sense. You know, if you have the ability to control all water, moisture, and all that kind of shit, your powers extend pretty fucking far.
Makes him look pretty stupid in the 70s when he was just throwing snowballs at people.
Yeah. He was just, like, covered in snow. Like, he just fell into a snowbank and got out. And he's like, I'm a mutant. And they're like, really? I believe that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, join our team. Come on.
You're, like, running around and throwing snow for a while, and then suddenly starts to melt. And he's like, I'll be right back. And he's got this freezer.
Yeah,
he just jumps in, and he's like...
Where's my super suit? Okay. All right, coming up next is the 5 most insane Freddy vs. Jason ideas that never came to be. We're not going to go over all 5 because they're not all great, but I think some of these are super fucked up, and I wanted to talk about them. Yeah. I'll link the article in the show notes if you really want to hear about it, but the first one, as we all know, Freddy vs. Jason, fantastic movie. You know,
whatever.
Entertaining movie.
There we go.
Not winning any Oscars, obviously, but like pretty entertaining for all the troubles that seem to have gone through to get released. Okay, first up is Freddy molested Jason as a child. Holy fuck! She went really dark with that immediately.
This is an option or a thing that happened?
This is a thing they wrote at some point. Oh. This is a pitch.
Okay, this is a picture of him like grabbing Freddy in the water and shit. So I was like, oh.
Yeah, no. This is a pitch. This never. But like this is
molested.
Actually, like a really good way to intertwine their stories.
He molested a small disabled boy?
He molested, yeah, that was the whole thing with Freddy. He molested kids. That's why they burned his house down, and he became a dream demon. That starts off really sad, and then all of a sudden gets like goofy as fuck.
You know that I make you say these things out loud, because making you say them out loud makes like, because you're like in your head, you're like, that's awesome, but then making them verbal, you stop yourself halfway and you're like, holy shit, I sound like an idiot.
So the original Freddy, he wasn't a child molester, I don't think, but he did some awful shit, and they burned his house down. All the parents came around and like burned his house down. I forgot what he was doing. But he was originally intended to have molested children, and then the 2010 remake, they actually made him molest children, and they did it. But the intention was always for him to have molested children. I'm saying molest way too much. Anyway, so...
and children in the same sentence too often.
Yeah. In the script, they introduced the idea of Jason's origin story being woven directly into Freddy's mythology. He proposed that Fred Krueger was the Camp Crystal Lake counselor who drowned a young Jason Voorhees, and that Jason was on a mission to seek revenge.
But that would just totally wipe out Jason's motivation right there.
In their draft, Freddy actually molested Jason as a child and then ended up drowning the young boy so that nobody would ever know. A little too dark for a fun mashup film, don't you think? I do think that. But I can't believe I've never thought of that. Like, I literally, I think what they did was pretty good in the movie, but like, I never thought of the fact that they could have just easily had, like, him luring Jason into his house with candy and be like, come here, little boy.
With his long fingers.
I
have a use for these.
Okay. Oh, fuck. Which one of these should I pick? These are all...
Let's just go over anyone that you...
Okay, time travel prevents both Freddy and Jason from ever existing.
What?
Okay, so, in this concept, they touted the idea of Freddy and Jason having a shared past. The Voorhees family used to live on Elm Street, and the Voorhees parents were part of the lynch mob that killed Freddy. This resulted in Freddy killing Jason after the Voorhees family moved to Crystal Lake, and he subsequently brought Jason back to life as an undead monster. Yes, Jason's new origin story was to be that Freddy created him. And that's not even the craziest thing. The script, which began in the 17th century and eventually pit Freddy and Jason against each other in hell. Wait for it. Satan himself, who was named Thanos in the script, was going to be revealed to be the master of both Freddy and Jason, and they've just been his pawns this whole time.
What a boring game for Satan to play. It's like, I made 2 undead, unstoppable zombie warriors. I'm just going to make them fight each other. Like, you could have been like, how about you go and, like, go kill, like, priests and things of God.
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, exactly. Why are you just killing children who have dreams of
Why
you?
would you make 2 weapons and you're like, I've got 2 nuclear bombs. I'm going to fire them at each other and then see what happens. And then God's sitting up there being like,
no, you're only nuking like teenagers in lakes having sex. Yeah. That's what it is. You're just like, okay, only go over them.
And God's just sitting up there like, you know what? I don't even need to put up a... You know what? Just don't even look at him. Just ignore him.
I don't understand this part.
There's a reason why I rejected him from heaven.
I don't understand this part, but the crazy ambitious film would have ended with Freddy and Jason killing Satan and then being banished from ever existing due to a time travel plot device. An FBI agent goes back in time, forges a judge's signature, and prevents Freddy from being released from prison. In other words, Freddy never became a dream demon, and as a result, Jason was never killed as a boy. Great.
Why does all of this stuff keep fucking with Jason's backstory, though? Like, all of them is like, Freddy is just always a dream demon, and he fucks with Jason's backstory.
Yeah. Like, well, the same things end up happening. It just seems like Freddy was involved with it. Going on to game news. Okay, so we got maybe 3 rumors? 2 rumors. We got 2 big rumors for you this week. So take these both with a grain of salt. This first one is WB Montreal devs talk about the next Arkham game. It's a sequel to Origins. Weird.
Origins? That's the
Arkham
one.
Origins, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one we haven't played.
The only one we didn't play. It was the one not developed by Rocksteady.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main developers. So, long story short, WB Montreal employee, or soon-to-be former WB employee, I was part of a team that worked on the failed Suicide Squad game that before it got canned. Then me and several others got moved to another team developing a new Batman Arkham game.
I thought
instead.
there was a Suicide Squad game happening.
No, we never got any confirmation of that. Just some rumors.
Okay, so then it's confirmed that it's not happening.
Apparently. Since I'm probably not going to stay at WB much longer, and since you guys are going to get the whole news on the 8th of March anyways, okay, mark that date on your calendars. I figured I might as well leak it ahead of time so you guys have something to look forward to. The game is called Batman Arkham Insurgency, and it takes place about 3 years after the event of Origins. It's built on the same engine as Arkham Knight and has been in development since around 2014.
Why would we want that? We're done with this shit.
The game will feature Batman and Dick Grayson as Robin as the main playable characters. Grayson has been Robin for about 2 years at this point. It's set in a previously unexplored coastal area of Gotham that is roughly the same size as the 3 islands from Arkham Knight on the outside, although the interiors have been substantially expanded, so you'll be able to go inside most of the buildings now. The Batcave and Wayne Manor are also accessible via fast travel.
Well, I mean, like, that's a nice little addition, but also, why is it that then they sectioned off Gotham in the last one, that it, like, just only had 3 islands? Like, they were just like, oh, forget the beach.
Yeah, I thought we were supposed to be in all of Gotham also, yeah.
Yeah, and they're just like, like, just the beach. No one goes to the beach.
Beach is fine. Don't worry about villains there.
And it's always night here. Like, we just don't use the beach.
Yeah, there's no point.
No.
It's like Crime Alley, the beach down there. We don't want it. The plot is that there has been a mass breakout at Blackgate and Arkham Asylum, and several terrorist attacks are across the city, which results in the GCPD blocking off a segment of Gotham where they have completely lost control. This is the main playable area, and while it's mostly populated by villains and criminals, there's a whole heap of trapped civilians that Batman and Robin will need to rescue.
It seems really unoriginal.
I mean, this just seems like another Batman game.
Yeah, it seems like Batman, what's the last one?
Arkham Knight.
Arkham Knight. This is just Arkham Knight, but like they're like Arkham Knight on the beach.
Tropical.
Yeah.
The Batmobile is in the game, but it's been changed. There's no more battle mode. Hey, this might be an improvement.
Yeah.
There's no battle mode, but the controls have been modified to compensate. The combat mostly consists of chase sequences using the Batmobile's superior speed and maneuverability to navigate around slower opponents while bombing the hell out of them with the car's weaponry.
No.
The missiles, power winch, and EMP device remain, along with some new stuff.
No.
Dual play mode is also present, but it's been changed. The dual takedown has been removed, but there's a whole bunch of new special moves and combos in its place. There's an entire new skill tree devoted to this mechanic. Owlman and the Court of Owls are the main villain in the game. Kind of cool. Although, this is spoilered, Owlman is really the focus, especially when he murders all the other members of the court towards the end of the game. Okay, cool. The other villains in the game are Maxi Zaius, Dollmaker, Killer Moth, Anarchy, Two-Face, Blockbuster, Ventriloquist, Cornelius Stirk. Who the fuck is that? Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Dwazan Al Ghul, Mad Monk, Dala, Riddler, and yes, Joker. Joker figures somewhat prominently into the story. No, go figure. It's revealed that he helped orchestrate the Arkham Asylum breakout, and he's not the main villain, but a major supporting character who mostly works for himself, but sometimes will help Batman and Robin if it benefits him. Alfred and Lucius Fox are your main contacts. Barbara Gordon helps you out on side missions, has a slight crush on Dick Grayson, blah, blah, blah. Unlike Arkham Knight, there will actually be boss battles this time. That's cool. I missed the boss battles from Arkham Knight. And the estimated release date is around November of this year, but it's possible it could be pushed back, seeing as the game was meant to be revealed near the end of last year, but was delayed.
A lot of this sounds just like boring rehashed bullshit.
Yeah, and it seems like if you were going to leak something, you'd make it a little more interesting.
And also make it a little more convincing, like one that Owlman would be your main villain.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I mean, I don't know enough, haven't seen enough of Owlman in fucking Batman, but, like, hell, some of the side characters are more interesting. Two-Face is more interesting.
Those are a lot of, like, D-list villains.
And that's the other thing, too. The secondary villains, they're all way in the back. And they would rehash a few of the other villains. Like, why would they just go with the D-lists?
Yeah, you think they'd be like... Because especially since it's in Origins, right? Like, It's 2 years after the first time he was ever Batman. So it's like... Why wouldn't you just have Clayface in there, but he's younger, or someone else, right? Killer Croc, whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. We'll find out 2 weeks from now. Apparently, it's going to be revealed on March 8th. So, interesting.
I don't know. It sounds like just I'm not interested.
Do you think it's real though?
No.
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 I think it is.
It could be, and I mean, prove me wrong. But if that was literally the game, I'm not playing.
I'll still play unless there's something better coming out.
No.
Okay.
I won't play it. For one, it's going to be literally the same game with the same mechanics. It's built in the same engine. It's got the stupid car in it, and I don't care if the battle mode's gone. You're still winching and running around. I don't want that. Do a better car thing. Other games have done better car mechanics. And then top that off with villains I don't care about. Yeah. No thanks. Sorry, that whole thing kind of almost made me mad inside. I was just like, "What are you doing?"
Batman hater extraordinaire.
No, but like
podcast.
Origins is like considered like one of all the series that you just like don't like. I mean, it wasn't like a horrible game, but it's the one that everyone liked.
It's the one everyone skipped.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like this is just like you're like, hey, you skipped that one, you can skip this one too.
Yeah. Next up is mostly something that I'm gonna link in the show notes, but I think everyone should watch it just so you know what goes on in game development. The Dead Space 3 the developers wanted to make compared to the one that got made. And it's in the video they go over like the fact that they wanted more survival horror, less actions. They didn't want microtransactions. The co-op partner was supposed to be a Shadow Isaac instead of the military bro that you got. A focus on dementia and psychosis and a more complex crafting system. This game was riddled with just like shitty problems that Dead Space never should have had though. Yeah. It was a great survival horror like series that all of a sudden was like focused on action. Focused on fucking crafting. You know how you got better things to craft? You fucking pay $5, you pay $10, you pay all this shit. Or if you want, you can send a drone out and get those, but that's going to take 45 minutes. And it's like, how long is your fucking play session going to be that you want to wait 45 minutes for this drone to come back for a more powerful weapon, you know? It sucks that, like, that happens. That, like, you know, a publisher will get involved to an extent where it's like, well, you need to ruin your game to continue to be making it.
Yeah, but... the whole like what the game we wanted to have made never got made, or the movie we wanted to get made never got made. Like maybe perhaps David Ayer had a better movie in mind for Suicide Squad. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it would have always been Suicide Squad. It was always going to be that movie, not because of it had a part of it to do with obviously was the many hands getting into the pie and mucking shit up, but the core component of that movie was broken. Like, you can tell when a movie, like, had something about it that was going to be neat, and then, like, hands got in on it, and you're like, well, that just fucked up halfway through, or whatever. Or, like, you know, you're watching it, you're like, that guy's cool. Why is it doing these weird things, right? Suicide Squad from the beginning was just like, whoa, look at that piece of shit go. You know, like, bad. Dead Space 3 was the same thing. It was a complete 180 from the original source material, that the core component was when they sat down, they're like, we're making an action game. And that was their problem. Like, the game they wanted to make, it was never going to be any good. You could include all these things in. It still wasn't survival horror.
No, but they wanted it to be more survival horror and less action.
Yeah, but more survival horror, that's just basically going like, we wanted it to be a little bit less action-y. It was always going to be an action game. More survival horror, like, what are you going to do?
I don't know. They did such a good job in the other two. I would trust those guys to make another one. I honestly think there was something more going on here.
I think
studio pressure to
but I think
make
it
an action
happened.
game.
I think it happened before. I didn't think it happened like they're like, oh, we could the game we were trying to make got manipulated along the way. I think it was like day one. They're like, you're not making what you're making.
I played that game with my friend from Thunder Bay over Xbox Live, and I heard bad things about it, but I was still like, it might be a fun action game. Then I was going to go into this and just not expect to be spooked or whatever. I mean, it might be fun. It wasn't fun. It was surprisingly not fun, like at all. Like it was just bad.
Even story wise,
disappointing.
I thought the whole idea and the way they ended it was dumb.
I didn't even get to the end of it. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake gameplay screenshots, but. Since you can't see that, we also have some info for you.
Well, one thing, if you're curious about the actual screenshots, they'll pop up on the video version on YouTube. But also, the screenshots themselves, just look up. They popped at, what was the conference?
Shown at Magic Monaco.
Oh, okay.
Who knows what that is?
They're actually two cool shots, because there's a couple of things in the shots that are actually pretty neat. Like, getting to see... The one thing that got me was when you look at the menu, is magic then materia. Yes. Like, what is that?
I imagine that's like re-equipping during battle. Or maybe not during battle, but maybe.
Or, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's grayed out. Like, maybe it's not selectable at this moment, but...
It's grayed out here, too. Yeah, maybe when you're in a non-battle scenario, so here, both of them, he's clearly fighting. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's just, instead of, like, pausing the game and having, like, a thing, it's just you click down twice and a little thing pops up and it's all real-time and you're just like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Could be. I don't know, but I'm interested because it means a change to the materia system. They said they were keeping the materia system, so it's probably like equipping materia into slots on your equipment. Yeah. Which is one thing I know they're not going to do because you can't see it in the shots. But then again, you don't have a lot of materia. Is the holes in the sword
in the Buster Sword
were supposed to be where you put the materia, like the orbs?
Oh yeah,
the actual materia that you put.
It should be there.
Yeah, they should have it where it's like kink and it's in like there's a. But then also, like, even on your bangle, there were holes in the image of the bangle. Like, there should be a place for you to stick them in.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah, they should do that. It'd be a nice little attention to detail thing. Yeah.
And, like, you have the colors of them around your little band or whatever. So, I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out what the difference between magic and materia is. And in the shots, obviously, it's more action stuff. But there's a couple of details in the notes about what these mean.
Alright, so for Final Fantasy VII Remake, Nomura says that since you're supposed to infiltrate the Mako reactor in the mission, it would only make logical sense for the team to make it a stealth mission. Mako.
You're gonna mac on that O?
Like mac and cheese. Fucking idiot.
There's a mac and cheese factory. They get in there, like, we're gonna blow up the Mako reactor, save the planet from all your environmental harm. They get in there, just like there's just like Hispanic workers making like fucking cheese and
Biggs macaroni. And Wedge, no, you're dead. This mission, dangerously cheesy. That's actually a fucking Cheetos reference, not mac and cheese, but whatever.
Is there a tagline for mac and cheese?
No.
Kraft dinner?
Kraft dinner. I don't know.
Canadian?
Yeah. It's called something different in the States, right?
Yeah. Kraft dinner's ours.
Yeah, Kraft dinner, but like the same thing is called something different down there.
I
like
think so. Let us know, American folks. Apparently you're our largest
listener. Is it just Kraft mac and cheese? Why do they call it Kraft dinner here? What's the fucking point? What's the difference? They really try to sell it to us as like a full meal instead of just like a... There you fucking go. Yeah, who fucking knows? Alright, so it'll only make logical sense for the team to make it a stealth mission where you can hide behind cover in the environment. Also, a way you could initiate combat if you want would be to cover without being detected, throw a grenade at the enemy, and create an attack of opportunity. So you're not forced to do stealth if you don't want. Battles will occur directly in the world, which is why there's a cover mechanic. That makes sense. I didn't really think it was going to be the whole random thing. In the screenshot, Cloud has already been discovered by the enemy, but it's actually possible to throw a preemptive attack from cover to avoid a full-blown confrontation. Grenades are something we had to discuss during meetings. We thought about enabling friendly fire, but ultimately decided against it. Good.
Yes.
Good. Because it would make the game too hard for people who aren't used to or fond of FPS. I don't know why I said first-person shooter.
Yeah.
It is indeed an action game, but it won't be too violent? Because we don't want people to stop playing. I don't know if he's talking about on-screen violence or difficulty. Probably the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't expect me to be going around like slicing limbs off with Cloud. I'm just gonna hit him like a sword in a game.
And it wasn't really. I mean, it's adult themed in times, but really at the end of the day, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was rated T for teen. Yeah. Here's another screenshot with the Guardian Scorpion. As you can see, it's quite extravagant. I hope people will have fun with these new battles, which include new options not previously possible, like destructible environments. This screenshot was taken in-game with everything moving accordingly. I want to show a small video, but told it wasn't possible. Sorry. Please note that the user interface is not final. Once it will be finalized, I think we'll be able to show the game running. That's it. It's looking good. I'm increasingly excited about this game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be neat. I don't know about the grenade thing. So, a couple of things in the shots, like, just before we hit the grenade thing, is in the shot with the scorpion, there's reticles, whatever, like markers on the ground.
Reticles.
Obviously showing you where you're not supposed to stand when things hit.
Yep.
That's always a good system. I never had a problem with that system. I've never found it, like, stupid. It's nice to get those kind of warnings. And it means that you're running around dodging shit and stuff rather than just, like, pre-programmed loops of combat. You know, like, he does the running attack, then he does the Gatling gun, then he does this, and now my chance is to hit him. Oh, if I hit him twice from behind, he falls over, that's my chance to smash on it long enough. Like, I want a little bit more interesting combat than that. So, yeah, like, I'm kind of down. Like, that totally works. It's got this kind of, like, MMO / you know, action game components. But the stealth stuff is fine. I'm down with that, like being able to hide behind cover and then like initiate combat or take them out quietly. That's always nice to tie in rather than just having the guy who just goes bah! Through the whole mission.
Yeah, like we're running up the... I mean, I'm going to run up the building just fucking swinging my sword probably, but you never know.
But like if you like playing that kind of style, like in Final Fantasy 15, in the stealth components, which were very contained, I stealth the crap out of those. If I
I hated the one where you had to like walk while the other guy was walking, like behind.
Oh, you could warp.
What?
Yeah, I warped that one.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to do that.
That's him vomiting in his mouth. Yeah, no, you didn't. You could do the walk one, but I warped to the first bridge on top of him right away, and he saw me, and I was like, "Fuck!" But then I just waited him for a walk ahead a bit, and I just warped across bridges on top of him.
What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? There's no warp point.
Yeah. I swear to God I did this because I remember very much the first time I warped up above the bridge above him while he stopped, and then while I was standing up there, I'm like, he's gonna see me, and then he didn't see me, and he kept going, and I just warped along behind him.
Are you talking about Final Fantasy VII?
No, 15.
No, okay. I was talking about 7.
Oh, let's walk behind him.
In the mission where you're in the Shinra building, there's a stealth thing where you have to like, there's a guards walking, and you need to like walk as they're walking so they don't see you.
I don't remember that at all.
Oh, fuck, it sucked. No, I was like, what the fuck, you're warping? I was like, there's no warp. I thought I could skip that entire section. Thank you. He wants to give me an aneurysm. Yeah, no, I think this looks cool. The grenade thing, they seem to be putting a lot of thought into the grenades.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to figure out these grenades. I'm like, what point in that game did it look like Cloud would use anything other than a very large sword on his back?
I mean, you get items, you get grenades as items, right? Like, I don't know. It's
No, but it's just, even then, like, the magic orbs that you carry with you shoot giant dragons. Like, just that.
we want to start thinking about Bahamut and Bahamut Zero. Nomura just puts his hand up. He's like, you fucking peasant? I don't want to hear about shit. We really need to figure this out. He taps to his napkin doodle that he's made. I'm like, what is this you've done here? And he's like, well, this is Cloud behind cover. We have that in. And when he tosses a grenade, will he be able to initiate battle? Yes. How many times should I mention it during the conference? Three times? Nomura, I would really like to talk about the dragons and how we're going to implement the summons.
Yeah.
Because that seems like a bigger deal. When you lob the grenade, is it going to be like an FPS? No!
I do like, though, that the cover component of it, just because I always hate in action games when you're just like constantly getting shot and hit, and basically all you got to do is just keep dodge rolling.
You need dodge. Dodge constantly.
Dodging around them until you're behind them, hit them. Like, the idea of going like, swoop, swoop, then behind cover, wait for them to like reload or something, or anything changes in the cycle, and then you're gonna jump out. You know, the interesting part about this, though, which I kind of put together when I saw these shots, was that most of this first game is probably going to be taking place around mostly Shinra stuff, right?
Yeah, again, we don't know how the game's going to be broken up. I would assume the end of the first game is going to be you getting out of like Midgar, you know?
Yeah, but the thing about that was, like, in Midgar, you had areas where you fought monsters, right? Like, apparently that broken down children's playground was a place where monsters attacked you, but nothing else.
Yeah. True.
And there were just monsters there, like horrific things. They were actually worse looking than the other monsters. But like, what about that grinding component of Final Fantasy, right? Like the RPG component. Are we getting too action gamey? Because all we've seen is Shinra stuff, which is clearly all from the very opening of the game. But and like attacking people and like find cover and dodge from bullets. But what about a monster? Like a monster's not shooting bullets or anything, or a stealth.
Maybe you gotta sneak to that playground.
Because like you stop fighting Shinra soldiers pretty early on.
Yeah.
You know, and it's pretty after that it's just monsters and Sephiroth.
Yep.
Like, what about that part?
You have occasional battles with Shinra soldiers, but yeah, it's mostly monsters. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, when you're traversing through the kindergarten playground,
it's so much easier.
I mean, they're just gonna be wandering around on the map, right? So like,
and so much easier to base your combat scenario based off of a human fighting a human because you can figure that out. And then there's this monster thing, and most of the time with most monsters, they're just like bah, bah. Slash dead.
They're gonna fucking berserk at you.
And those components don't matter. Like stealth and hiding and dodging from bullets mean shit in fighting a monster.
Yeah, you hide behind a box, that Bahamut's still coming at you.
Yeah, or if even if it's just a fucking tiger, it's just like he's behind the box. I'm gonna jump over the box, and then he's on top of you. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, it feels like the game, and they're like grenades and shit. And like it's built around fighting humans. Are they gonna just?
Let's not read too much into this grenade shit. Like,
no, but something about everything they've been showing feels like they're just building up, literally just Cloud's team versus Shinra.
It's true because everything they're talking about has all been in the very first section of the game. It's like they're just still like what's the rest of the game about? What is there?
Yeah.
Who is it?
And like do these components and do these mechanics play out into what the rest of the game is, because the first 10 hours...
you see one of those Triceratop tank things in the background, and you just see it chilling. He's just doing whatever they do, like breeding. I don't know what the fuck a Triceratops tank does. It just has hands and a tank body.
It's a breed. What is it supposed to do?
It has. Yeah, what does it do?
It's like so the female tank like opens up a hatch in the back, and then the male tank fires out of the cannon, and it's like tries to catch it. Like,
it's very violent, but that's just how it is in the Triceratops tank ways. I don't know what those things are named. Yeah, so it's just chilling in the background. I mean, what he's talking about here is just stealthing up and throwing a grenade to initiate battle. You know, you can still do that to a Triceratops tank. You can just there's a rock in the area, you get close, and you just fucking lob it over there, and it blows it up, and as soon as it's on its side, it's immobile and dead. You probably won't be able to flip it on its side.
So that's what you do. You go into like the whole herd of them. You just start flipping them all over. Leave it in there, and you're like, "So should we kill them? Leave them.
Just leave them like that. Leave them as an example.
Let the others know."
Midgar Zolom would be really cool. Although I don't know how it's going to work if you're like the camera third person. You know, like how close it is. Because the thing about the Midgar Zolom was like it kind of was up. Yeah. And like almost like a bird's eye view, and you could see it and like see where it was coming from and stuff, and you could kind of dodge it. Whereas like this is gonna be like all of a sudden you just see a fucking huge snake coming at you like a shit.
It's gonna be like just a flat plane, and there's like you see off in the distance, and you're like, what the?
How the fuck do I?
What do I do?
Yeah,
you just this hopeless run backwards.
Yeah, exactly. That's gonna be odd.
There's like Barrett just like sitting on a rock on the side, and this Cloud
just lights up a cigar.
I'm gonna fuck that later. If he survives.
That boy pretty.
That boy real pretty.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy VII Remake looks cool.
Do you want to help him?
I can't wait to see all the sexual tension between Barrett and Cloud.
It's so gonna be hard.
Okay, next up is alright. Todd Howard, the head of Bethesda, said two new games, bigger than anything we've ever done. It's coming out. We got a good number of projects on the go. We're bigger now, and we want to be putting out more stuff. We have two large projects that are more classically the scale of what we do, but even bigger. We overlap the projects, so we're working on them at the same time but they're staggered. I can't talk a lot about them, but I can say they're bigger than anything we've ever done. He said bigger a lot.
It's bigger like 5 times.
They're a bit different, but definitely in the wheelhouse that people are used to from us.
And he's talking about his penis.
So again, they fucking... That was it.
You should have done the whole press conference. It's bigger and it's better and it's bigger and it's better. And I'm talking about my dick. And just walk off.
He just sends a dick pic to the entire crowd.
It's on everyone's
phone.
Look
forward to Doom 2.
He's like, everyone, if you're interested in this game, look at your phones. Ah! That's right.
So bigger. I feel like this entire time what he said is we're making another Fallout or Skyrim, and they're going to be even bigger. That's the gist of it.
Yeah, but does any fucking does any director ever come out and be like, we're making a game smaller than the last? Like, Is any director's goal to be like, you know what, we're going to make a less game than last time? We want to be smaller and little less than we were before.
Yes, I think you can sell that, though. But I think you can sell that as, like, we realize our game has gotten really big and kind of unfocused, and we really want a tighter experience. So we're still going to have a big world, but we're going to make it a little more compact, so the stuff you're doing is more meaningful.
Oh, I feel like I've taught you something.
I'm a PR relations man.
Yeah.
I am Todd Howard. No, we're going to make it fucking bigger. We're going to make it better. There are going to be more guns and less dialogue options. Instead of just having yes or no, it's only yes now.
You can spend 35 minutes trudging across, like, nonsensical blank wilderness.
It'll take you literal 18 hours to cross the game map.
Yeah.
But have the fun.
Yeah.
Have most fun.
There's great conversations if you ever make it to a city.
Yeah, so I don't think those games need to be bigger. I think they're perfectly fine the size they are. I think they need to refocus on what they're doing with the actual systems in the game, because...
It's an interesting argument, though, right? Because, like, with Horizon Zero Dawn coming, which has got to be a pretty big world, or Final Fantasy 15, etc., everyone was... really, they talked about with those games, despite being open, saying that they're a really tight experience that you don't spend a lot of time being lost into just nothingness, because as games got huger and huger, Witcher, fucking Bethesda's Fallout 4, Skyrim, but Fallout 4 was a big one for just like walking across brown for a long time. Like we were like, all right, we got it. Like these giant maps don't mean anything. Because it's actually starting to get frustrating. Because it's one of the things that pissed me off about the whole new Zelda game there. What's it called again?
Breath of the Wild.
Was someone showed like the map of the original Zelda last game or whatever. Like they're like, this is the map, and this is the map for Breath of the Wild, and it showed that like it could fit 2,000 of those squares, and I'm like, I don't want to cross that.
No.
Like unless you give me a magical flute that fires me at warp speed, I have no interest in walking that shit. And as far as I'm aware, Link has only a horse. This sounds like a real long ride.
I'm sure he can play an ocarina and warp to somewhere.
Yeah, but then you're doing the whole, if I warp to this temple, it's the temple closest to the place I need to go. I hate that shit.
Yeah, that's a necessary evil in those fucking games. But yeah, I just don't think being bigger is necessarily what they need to be doing at Bethesda. I think they really need to rethink their fucking conversation systems. If Fallout 4 is any indication. Strike a balance, Strike a balance between interesting combat, interesting missions.
I would really love a push and a development in their combat systems, because their combat systems have always been the same.
Yeah, if that is to say, average.
Yeah, there's nothing extraordinary about the combat systems that are in there. They polish them and refine them into the context of their games really well. So
VATS is fun in Fallout. I enjoyed it up until... I still enjoyed Fallout 4. I'm not gonna lie.
still enjoyed it in Fallout 4. There was nothing wrong with those systems, but the thing is what about something else?
Yeah.
Because, like, I got into that game and was basically doing exactly the same thing.
I think their big thing with Fallout 4 was the power armor. You get to customize the power armor more and use the power armor more.
No, I know, but that's just more fluff on top of another system. Like, how about the next Fallout?
Very true.
Like, if we're going to have VATS, fine, but, like, how about this time we actually, like, you can plot out movement in VATS where, like, you're going to, like, dodge, roll, or something, right? Like...
Yeah, and the thing is, with combat the way it is right now, like, that wouldn't even be useful, because it would just be like, dodge rolled out of the way, but it didn't matter. Whereas, like, if they tightened up the combat a little bit, made the AI smarter and stuff, that could actually be like a defining thing in the battle.
And then even though the battle continued while VATS was happening. So, like, if you push VATS, bullets were going, and you could be like, all right, I need to, like, take some of my VAT and like, roll. That'll consume half of the time. But then I can use the other half of the energy to, like, fire at his head in this one. Oh, no, wait, I can't do that, because if I roll this way, then I'll, like, get hit by another bullet, blah, blah, blah. It adds this kind of, like, RPG turn-based
That's interesting, yeah. I like that. And it's a nice way to, like, blend the RPG and the action, right? Yeah. That's cool.
And even then, the same thing with, I keep forgetting, Skyrim, right? Some sort of, like, interesting melee combinations. Like, like, if you smack them on the ground, you could, like, jump off their knee and then, like, land on their head.
Honestly, with Skyrim, or the next Elder Scrolls, I'm not even looking for that. Just make it feel like I'm hitting something. Their fucking physical combat in those games are so bad. Like, it just feels like I'm hitting paper just over and over again. I'm just holding the trigger and I'm just slicing through men.
Yeah,
that's all I'm doing.
And it's a lot of 1, 2, 3, right? Like chop, chop, chop.
You just hold the right trigger and you just keep going. You can do it. If you hold the trigger, you can do like a powerful smash, or if you tap it, you can do a lighter one. That's about it.
But that's what I mean. Like, let's just flash that up a bit. Give some combos. Maybe like a backwards roll while you shoot your bow, so you could dodge backwards and like shit like that. Just give us a little more.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would say put your focus on that shit, because then you would make amazing games.
Maybe the Doom team can help you with combat, Bethesda. Coming up after the break, we're going to have our top 5 animes, top 10 animes.
Our top 5 personals, top 10 total.
Top 10 animes for the weeaboos.
Top.
See you after the break, folks. Top spin.
I like repeating words a lot in this podcast.
Top. Hello and welcome back to the Pens and Pickles Podcast, second segment, where we're going to be talking about our top 5 Japanimations.
Top 10, but yes.
Well, I mean, it's 10 between us, but it's 5 each, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So,
this is our...
I was going to say, to give you a little like a backstory on us, Mike was a huge anime fan, knows a lot about anime, knows a lot of anime series. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of the more surface level shit. That's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I love a lot of these series, but I don't delve as deep. So he's going to have a lot more of the obscure stuff. So if you're a big anime fan, you're a Mike fan. And if you like Dragon Ball Z, welcome to Cal. Sorry, so what are you going to say?
I was going to say something similar along the same lines. Excuse me, my background with anime was actually, and it's kind of an interesting point to go back to where you kind of got into it as well. My first anime was from renting VHSs at Rogers when they used to do the rentals, if anyone even remembers that anymore. I mean, it was only a few years ago they stopped doing that.
Yeah, I feel like everyone should know the fact that you could in fact rent stuff at some point.
Like physical things, and have to bring them back, which was a huge pain in the ass, and you'd pay $50 just because you were too lazy.
Yep. Totally.
Renting a VHS from Rogers, and I had no fucking clue what it was. Like, I just picked it up and put it in, and that was... It was one of two things. It was either Ninja Scroll, as per most people's first one, or it was Slayers, which was like a magic girl.
I don't even think I've heard of that one.
It revolved around this girl like Lena Inverse, and she was the most powerful mage in the world. Mm-hmm. And the show just ran on the fact that she was constantly overpowered, like nothing contended with her, so she just blew everything up.
Like One Punch Man before its time.
Kind of. Not quite in that capacity where he just literally eviscerated everything. Like, she actually had to fight, but it was just never, actually going to be that much of a threat. Mm-hmm. It was more about everyone just knew that she was horribly powerful and always wanted to try and, drop her. Okay. At the end of the day, that's the premise of the story. But it was the movie version of it, and it was really well animated, and I fell in love. And then from there, it just became an addiction. I've dropped off massively in the last 6 years of my life, but I still pick up those series that twing the right networks of people where, if that person says it, I'm like, oh. And if that person says it, I'm like, oh. And then if the last person does it, I'm like, that's a shit. That's going to be the shit. I'm going to still sit down. So I get about, 6 or 7 good series in a year now. Mm-hmm.
I think my first exposure to anime might have been Samurai Pizza Cats.
Oh god, that was my first.
Which was on YTV when we were super young.
I didn't even realize it was anime at the time though. It was like Sailor Moon and Samurai Pizza Cats and shit like that. I had no clue that was anime. It was just a weirdly drawn show.
Yeah, totally. So, yes, looking back, I think that was my first exposure to it. Was Samurai Pizza Cats was on, and then Sailor Moon, and I was heavy. Samurai Pizza Cats is good, but it's not like you get into the story. It's like they're fucking cats that fire out of a tube.
They fire out of a Pizza Hut.
Samurai Pizza Cats. Oh yeah! They're sniffing out crime, and you know it ain't baloney. But then, fucking Sailor Moon was actually the one where it was a serialized story where there was things going on. And it was a monster of the week, but there was something going on in the background. There was more to it, and I really enjoyed that. I think my dad worried about me a lot in that phase.
Same.
But also, I had these 2 kids up the street.
He was right.
He was right to worry. But also, I had these 2 kids up the street who were much older than me, and my friend, Cheese Kid. Me and Cheese Kid about the same age. These 2 other kids were, well older than us. I want to say, at least 6 to 8 years older than us, maybe a little more. But they
Again,
were
people, fan art of Cheese Kid.
Yes, for sure. Whatever you're picturing in your mind might be true. But they introduced us to a lot of anime just because, we'd go over and they'd show us... They gave us burnt PS1 games and shit they were done with and stuff, and we'd play with that. But, they also, they'd show us, Dragon Ball Z arcs that we had no idea existed yet because they downloaded it off something, and it was the Japanese version of the last Dragon Ball Z movie.
I had VHS rips of the Dragon Ball movies, the Broly one of where it was Gotenks and Trunks.
This is the Second Coming. Yeah.
I had that on a VHS that someone had recorded, literally hit record.
Yeah, like bootleg, right? Yeah. Like that shit went around there back then. Yeah, and it seems so like underground and kind of cool.
Yeah.
This weird like nerd thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember them showing me a lot of shit like that. Like I'm pretty sure I saw Ninja Scroll there too. And Elfin Lied, I think, too, which is that weird one with the psychic girl that blows people's heads up.
Yeah. Or cuts them, or I don't know.
There's a lot of blood. Anyways, and I remember thinking, like, and even at that young age, I was like, yeah, cartoons can have blood, you know, like, because at that point, all I'm watching is kid shit. I'm watching Ninja Turtles and, you know, Samurai Pizza Cats, you know. So.
That was the 90s kid anime evolution, though, for sure, was watching, like, Sailor Moon, Samurai Pizza Cats, and all the cartoony stuff, and then getting into your Ninja Scrolls, your Akiras, Ghost in the Shell.
I feel like Dragon Ball Z is like in between that because like it is violent, but it's not like super gory yet. Yeah,
for sure. Like you have your in betweens, and then it does escalate into finding those films because you see the eyes, and you're like anime. And then you stick it in, and you're like Akira, and you're like, wow, this guy turned into a giant flesh amoeba.
Yeah.
And then,
or renting Princess Mononoke and being like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, this is...
It made no sense the first time I watched Princess Mononoke, because I was like, how is this supposed to be anime? Where's the, like, Or,
yeah, exactly. Where's the powering up? This is, why did they shoot that deer?
Yeah.
Fucking, like, Blood Plus and shit. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Just shit like that. So anyways, that's our background.
Blood plus or blood positive? Because like AB positive, AB negative.
Ooh, I literally never thought about that. I always called it blood plus.
I thought everyone calls it blood plus, but I've always wondered if it was supposed to be a blood positive.
I bet it's supposed to be positive.
Yeah.
You blew my mind, Mike. Okay. So let's start off our list here.
Yeah.
The first one I wrote down instinctively was Soul Eater.
It's a good one, though. That's a good pick.
I fucking love Soul Eater.
The manga is, to me, like a gajillion times better than what the show turned out to be, especially with the crappy ending they hacked in.
Oh, sorry. I should also say there are going to be spoilers for all the series we mentioned. So
yes.
Whenever we mention it, just be aware that probably going to talk some spoilers.
Some of these are from the 90s, so if you have not watched them yet, like, too late.
Yeah, exactly. We're out there, but just a fair warning. Yeah, Soul Eater is fucking awesome. I love the art style. It looks like Tim Burton jerked off on Japan. You know, like it is just like it has that kind of like it's still recognizably anime, but it's got all like the little spirals and kind of like spooky ness to it.
Which is way more again in the manga and stuff. That's why, like for me, I read the manga well before I ever got into the show. Got close, like the arc had passed where they ended it in the show. And then when I went to watch the show, because I'm like, I love these fights, I want to see them animated, and it turned out it was well animated.
Very much so.
The one fight I wanted them to well animate, though, was one of the ones they didn't.
Yeah, the anime stops following the manga after the Arachnia comes. Is that right? Yeah. What's her face comes back?
Yeah.
The first snow fight. I think it starts veering off.
They just go straight to we're just gonna fight Kishin and just kill him.
Yeah, there's 12 more episodes after that.
And then in the manga it goes way off. Like they go all the way to the moon.
I know. Don't ruin it for me because I haven't personally read the entire manga yet. I'm still working through it.
It's worth getting through. But yeah, it's an excellent one. You're right. It's had a very distinctive style because they focused in on that insanity thing. Yeah,
they have a lot of really cool just designs in that. It starts off with them fighting Jack the Ripper, and he's this weird claw man on the stairs, and you're like, holy fuck! That's not what I thought Jack the Ripper looked like. He has this kind of like a carrot nose looking thing, and I'm like, this is dope. That immediately sold me.
It's very much your stile, actually, in your cartoon horror thing. Mm-hmm. It fits into that very much.
Although, also, one of the creepiest things I've ever seen in anime is Sorry, I just want to give a quick little... In Soul Eater, there are people who go into school, and some people can become weapons, and other people become meisters, people who wield the weapons. So they need to learn how to work together. So someone turns into a weapon, they need to learn how to,
They resonate their souls to be unified as one.
Yeah, to unify as one so they can fight better, and they go on missions to get... More souls and shit.
Because the weapons can eat the souls, and then if they get 100 souls or eat a witch's soul,
they become
a death size.
Death size, yes. Yeah. So, anyways, then there's this horrible monster, the Kishin, who is you can learn about the anime yourself, but it's kept in its bag of its own skin.
Yeah.
And it's just this sack with eyes on it, and then when it comes back alive, there's this intense animation scene of it fitting back into its skin, and it's Silent Hill type creepy. Yeah. It's this weird scratching noises and its fingers twitching back and forth as it forms into the skin. I'll always remember that. I always thought it was so creepy and well done.
Well, there's lots of stuff, even all the stuff with Krona and her blood sword thing.
Oh, the black blood, yeah. My blood is black.
Yeah, and Krona's stuff is all weird. There's lots of times where he did really weird things where she would he would draw her almost in a spiral, or him, her.
Less ambiguous.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to. I think it's a him.
I think it's a him.
Yeah.
Like he would be like going insane and like he'd draw him almost as a spiral, bending his own.
He'd be
body back.
he'd be like in a
have,
complete U shape almost.
A completely warped smile with like full teeth showing, because like in anime you don't ever see. You usually see the teeth, and in Japanese culture, teeth are considered unclean. That's why women cover their mouth when they laugh.
Oh, interesting.
Because like showing bone is considered very unclean.
That's a interesting way of looking at it.
It is very interesting.
Yeah,
so like
sure.
that was the thing about the styles. It's very shocking because they drew all the teeth in, and like to show teeth.
And Soul's got these big like spiky teeth, and I love all the designs. I love the characters. I love Kid. Kid's fucking he's this manic, like he's the death god's son, and he's a human for some reason and not like a Reaper, but he has a cool mask that he puts on with the cloak. I fucking love that.
They actually hit that whole thing in
interesting.
The latter half of the manga.
And he's super obsessed with symmetry, and he's like OCD about it, and like it interrupts his battle style and stuff. And but fuck, it's just awesome.
Yeah, the alignment, like his like he's obsessed with symmetry. And
one of the most hype moments of my life
was
at the end of the anime. It ended up being like nothing, but like I was.
It's way better in the manga again. Like what happens when they connect.
I was so hyped. Yeah, when the circle around his head, I fucking lost my shit. I was like cheering in my seat. Like, fuck, it was great. I love that series. I super recommend it if you like. Things with even like a slight horror vibe, but it's still kind of goofy. It always retains.
It has its humor moments.
Yeah,
the manga eventually loses all humor and just goes like full insanity crazy at the end because of the effects of the kitchen. So like it gets real dark, but it's you're right. It's got that Tim Burton thing where like it's fun and playful like Nightmare Before Christmas, but it's also like Nightmare Before Christmas, it's also creepy and weird.
Yeah, exactly.
And I loved the whole aesthetic for it.
And it's punctuated with cool fights. All the characters have interesting backstories. All main characters, anyways. I think. Yeah. I love Black Star, Maka, Soul, Kid. Like, they're all great. So, highly recommend that one. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
Mike.
My first one is it the first one I want to hit on?
Throw me a softball. Throw me something I know.
Sorry, something you know?
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with something you know first. Then we'll do Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, not the original series.
Okay.
So to elaborate for fans who don't know, Full Metal Alchemist was originally a manga, an excellent manga, became a TV show. The show ran up to where the manga was currently at the time. But instead of doing filler arcs, which thank God they didn't do, because I hate filler. Yeah, that's my reaction to filler too. They just ended the show. They just stopped it, right?
Yeah.
With the first Full Metal Alchemist TV series. The manga ended. Excellent manga. Again, personally think I don't always think the manga's better, but in this case, again, the manga was a little stronger. Then they decided just almost like panel for panel to remake the whole series from episode 1 to the end, accurate to the manga full series. And that's Brotherhood, which is wonderfully animated, never dips throughout the whole thing.
Yep, great looking series.
Is pretty loyal 100% to the whole thing. Great fight sequences. But what Full Metal Alchemist is about is, well, it's about a Full Metal Alchemist.
Explain what that is.
No, yeah. It's two brothers who are alchemists, and in this world, like, basically using symbols and math and science, right? You clap your hands together and use the symbol, and you can transmute matter like alchemy. So you can, like, turn the earth into a spear, or, transmute different elements. But it has to be to scientific equation of equivalent exchange, right? Like, if you're going to make gold or iron or something like that, you need to have something that can either be turned into iron scientifically, like that these components will make that thing up. If you're going to make like a machine or something like that, you have to have enough mass to make that machine. You can't just like take a grain of sand and turn it into a whole thing. That's the whole rule of equivalent exchange. So the two boys' parents die, or mother dies. And when she dies, they try and bring her back to life, which is against the rules of equivalent exchange. Even though they have all the parts of the body, they don't know how to bring a soul back. And when they do that, it eats up Ed's arm and leg, or half of his leg, and then his whole brother's whole body gets eaten. Right? And then he seals his brother's soul to a piece of armor, and then he gets a metal leg and a metal arm, and they go off to try and find the alchemist stones so that they can figure out how to get their bodies back. And that's the premise of the whole show, which gets far more elaborate farther down the road. But really got some interesting, very dark moments, and an incredibly elaborate story that gets played out over all of the whole thing. But the thing that impressed me most about the whole series was usually like when anime gets far off into like the 700 episodes or the 700 chapters or whatever, is that overarching story that loops back to the beginning and their original motivation usually just drops off, and it's all about power levels and shit. Even Hunter is kind of starting to teeter on that point, where it's not like unifying itself back to Gin.
I don't want to talk about it yet until we bring it up.
No. But like Gin's dad and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like it's not, if that circle's looped and
they've done it. That's it. You know, like that. The main character's motivation has completed.
It has completed, and the story's still going. Full Metal Alchemist was literally from episode 1 to the end. It was all about this full loop, and he looped it all together perfectly, so that by the end, every single loop had looped back into itself, and the story questions had just been played out as a whole chunk. So it's a really well completed written story with really interesting characters, great character designs, and some really interesting like components of like science pushing itself further than it should at times and things like that. Like there's one really dark section of the episodes where Ed and his brother are trying to solve things, whatever, blah blah blah, and they meet another state alchemist who's like a government-owned alchemist who's researching and trying to keep his money and keep his research grant basically, and he has a daughter and he's like a solo parent. And his whole thing is making chimeras, merging animals together, and then his whole goal was to try and make one that talks, right? Because that's never been done before. And then his whole stress of losing his grants and losing his money, like they all bond together and hang out, and they make friends with the little daughter, and they take care of her and stuff while he's off researching. And then in his attempt to try and meet his test to show that he can make one that talks, he merges his daughter into a dog. And they don't even realize it until the end, so now it's just this dog that barely responds and barely understands what's going on. It's just going like, Ed, and stuff. It's really creepy and sad, and they're all upset.
I watched that far into it, yeah.
And then Scar comes along later on, there's another character in it who like hates alchemy, and then just like blows her up, just because he considers her an abomination and kills her. You know, like little stories like that are like, that were quite moving at the time to help motivate these characters to push themselves on forward and how much they have to go through.
That anime is, I've tried twice to watch it and I fell off both times. I can't tell you why.
Brotherhood or the original?
Brotherhood. Both times tried it, and I don't know what I keep I'm not liking it, but I just keep falling off, and I'm not sure what it is. I really like Ed and his brother. It's a lot of the surrounding characters I just don't really care for, I think. There's that dude with the mustache who always flexes, and like
Armstrong.
Yeah, and like I don't know, they maybe it's them that I don't care as much about them. I really care about their story, but like I don't know why I keep falling off of it.
There's a lot of side characters. There's a lot of side characters, and a lot of them you don't really end up caring for. Like you end up really liking and like being motivated to cheer behind Mustang, the flame alchemist with the glove. He clicks his fingers and makes flame.
It's one of those ones that like is, you know, universally like this is a great series. Like, and I really want to finish it. I really want to like it.
And you're right. Like a lot of the whole state alchemy side of it later on, when they're dealing with like the politics and the army, is actually quite cool when you find how it all loops together. But you're right. Like some of the side characters, you're just kind of like,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the beginning. Like, I don't know. I've watched. I want to say a quarter of the series. I don't know how many episodes there are, but like, yeah, something keeps falling off for me. I'm not sure what it is. I wish I liked that one more because I know people love it so much.
It's one of the ones you have to kind of get through. I agree. Like in the beginning, it's like a lot of mysteries opened and characters delivered to you really quickly.
Yeah, maybe that was good. Yeah,
but good comedy in it, good animation, excellent series, and I'm so glad they went back and redid it correctly because it was such an honored manga, and the fact that the show just dropped dead. It's the only time they've ever, as far as I'm aware, gone back and were like, we fucked up on that show. Here we have it again done right.
They did it with Hunter, didn't they? They just stopped.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Instead of doing filler, they were just like, okay, well, there's no more manga. Goodbye.
Yeah. And then they came back and were like, hey, here you go.
Yeah, here's this. He did it. He wrote more.
But then, again, they
20
just
years later
dropped off, and, you know, they're going to have to wait another fucking 20 years until he finished. Anyways,
Soul Eater is one that I wish would get a Brotherhood series where they actually would complete the manga. But
Claymore is another one.
Claymore, I know that.
Yeah. It was actually one of my honorable mentions.
Oh.
Excellent series.
Series. I mean, I want to say like 3 episodes, but
the anime is awful. The manga is perfection.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it's just a little bit more cleaned up. The anime for me drops off with when Teresa dies. Like they do the flashback and go back over how the main character became a Claymore. And there's an amazing fight with Teresa, and I was loving it. And then after that point, the animation quality went, and then like the story started to like deviate, and I was like, oh. But the manga goes on like way past. I mean, like 100 chapters more of what they do, and like big Claymore did like 32 panel or page chapters, not like little 10 pages. Yeah, so good, so good.
No, I've always whenever occasionally I'll just Google something where I'm like good anime, like mature animes or dark animes or something that's like a more adult themed, right? And I always get Monster, Berserk, and Claymore is always what I see.
Yeah, and I can't take the other two. That's the thing. Yeah.
And I'm like, Berserk, I've tried to watch a million times. I know a lot of people love it again, but like the show, I just couldn't get into it all.
No.
What was the other one I just said? Oh, Monster. I still haven't given that one a shot, but
it's good.
I hear it's really good.
It's good. It's just it's slow drama thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I was more in the mood for hitting things with a sword. All right, let's go on to my second one. Mm-hmm. Let's get this out of the way. Dragon Ball Z. Just Dragon Ball franchise as a whole is something very close to my heart. As I say, as I have a Goku Funko Pop over here. Dragon Ball is an awesome series, and there's I honestly there's got to be a reason it's still fucking going, right? Like they even brought it back after it was been dead for like 15 years.
So I don't actually like Dragon Ball. I can't stand watching.
We have a lot of conversations about Dragon Ball, though.
We do, but every conversation starts with, what was it about with this? And you're like, really, there isn't an answer. That's usually the conversation.
Toriyama forgot.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of interesting backstory to Dragon Ball Z, and not in the lore itself, but in the making of it. It was notorious for getting fucked with by the Shonen Jump editors at the time, and during the whole Android saga. I'm just assuming you know what Dragon Ball Z is, obviously. But they introduced the old man and the fat robot, and the editor was like, that's not very threatening, and Toriyama was like, fuck, so he kills him off. He's like, I got 2 more androids, and they're like, those teenagers look kind of dumb, and he's like, fuck, so they get killed off, Cell gets brought in or whatever, and then the guy was like, well, Cell's he looks kind of like buggish, he doesn't look that cool, and he's like, fuck, so he transforms. He eats the androids. Are you happy? Are you happy now? Are you happy? And then he ends up making accidentally one of the best arcs in Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
It's amazing that Dragon Ball came together in any sort of like cohesive package with all the shit that may have been going on there. But for me, it's like it's what I always look back to when I watch something like Hunter, which is like playing on what's that called? Shonen tropes. Yep. When it's playing all these shonen tropes like of a fighting series. I think back to Dragon Ball where I'm like, that's the rule it's breaking. Dragon Ball is very much like a normal ass power level. Here's a strong thing. Yeah. We're gonna make an example of this guy to show how much powerful this guy is. Now here's Goku.
That's the core of Dragon Ball. That's what makes it awesome. It is the standard for everyone. It set the standard for Shonen for years to come. It set the standard for the powering up and the fighting and the beams colliding and all that stuff. It had been done before.
Transformations.
Yeah, it had all been done before, but Toriyama refined it into a well-oiled genre that became shows afterwards. Like Sailor Moon defined the whole Mahou Shoujo girl thing. I forget what the whole thing's called. Bishonen.
Shonen? Shinen? Is that right?
No, it's Bishonen something. Is girl. Mahou Bishonen.
We're not Japanese. We're not very good at this.
I don't know. But the whole magical girl franchise was defined by Sailor Moon.
Sure.
Ever since then, the whole have a wand that transforms into something, it turns into a schoolgirl uniform, and then you're a magical girl.
Yeah.
That's Sailor Moon refined since the day it started, and it's made it as the cultural significance that it is. Dragon Ball's like the male version of that.
Yeah, totally.
And it has that impact. And the funny thing that always about Dragon Ball was that most of my friends, again, were all like, back in the day, were like, oh, fuck anime, it's so stupid. But they all watched Dragon Ball to the point where like we'd be out in the smoking section and my friends would be pretending to like Kamehameha at each other, And I'm like, you're all the dope smoking like.
Yeah, Dragon Ball is like the weird one that like it made it mainstream.
Yeah,
it's like even people who don't know what it is are like, oh, that's Dragon Ball. I see the Super Saiyan glowy hair and I know what that is. Yeah.
If I wanted to try and show off another anime, I had to show off an anime where the scenes in it had that component. Like when I tried to show off Ranma 1/2, I pulled open an OVA, and I was like at a point where Ranma actually had like key abilities like that, so that he could actually shoot beams of energy. And I'm like, this will sell it, and it did.
And this will sell it. This is good. But Dragon Ball is this like Again, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but I love the fact that it did Dragon Ball when he was a kid, and then Dragon Ball Z when he was an adult. Mm-hmm. I felt like I grew up with the character.
Yeah.
I remember very little about Dragon Ball at this point. Like I couldn't tell you the story in order as I could with Dragon Ball, where I'm like, it's the fucking.
See, I'm a flip.
It's the Saiyan arc, and then it's the fucking it's this, and then it's that.
I'm a flip. I'm actually a mid flip because like the original show that aired in Canada only made it up to the first collection of Dragon Balls ever, and then cut. There were more shows, but like in Canada, all we got was that, and it ended, and we never saw anything else. And then suddenly YTV was like, Dragon Ball Z. And you're like, what happened in between?
Why is he an adult?
He's just an adult now. And they're like, oh, it's just in the future. And we're like, okay. But really, they actually did animate and talk about the stories in between. So I read the manga for in between all of that, and I love that story. Then I rewatched the show and got the show in between. I really loved Young Goku and the original fighting tournaments and the smaller scale stuff.
I have a fondness for those too.
Yeah. That was my heyday with Dragon Ball. The Z stuff later on, I got like Cell Saga, and then after that, the Boo thing, I was out, and GT, I was out.
Okay, well, GT is. Let's not talk about it. GT's bad. Super's okay, actually. Super might be doing something interesting, although it might just fail at trying that. But I'm more than willing to watch it. But yeah, and also Dragon Ball has had some great fights in it too, from pretty well animated ones. Although it's notoriously has like an A team and a B team, where they have like characters off model in the background with fucking eyes going both directions. It's like Vegeta's like 3 heads too short. You're like, the fuck is happening? Like,
or there's like he's just all hair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, their hair is like way too big. You're like, who the fuck is getting paid to draw this? But yeah,
Trunks' hair has so many random like lengths and sizes.
Yeah, he looks incredibly stupid when they're doing him wrong with the B team. Most notoriously is I think with the episode that Trunks gets introduced is really well animated because he's like super cool, turns Super Saiyan, slices Frieza in half. For some reason, for the recap of the episode, they didn't use just the animation that the other team had used. They just reanimated it with the B team, and it's like significantly worse, and it's so bad. And I always remember being like, that's not right, you know. Anyways, Dragon Ball Z. You already know about it. We don't have to get harp on it, but I love that series.
Could you imagine being like a Japanese animator in Japan and being like, oh, you're an animator. What do you work on? Like Naruto. And you're like, oh my god, you work on Naruto? And it's like, I'm on the B team.
Oh.
And just like start pouring gasoline.
You just punch him in the stomach really hard.
He's just standing there. Little match. I deserve this.
I did all the filler arcs.
God, Naruto had like 400 episodes of filler.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah.
That's too much. Yeah. What's your next one?
My next one is... let's go with Fruits Basket.
The fuck is that?
I knew you would... There's no way
I've never even heard of that.
You would never know about this.
Yeah.
You of all people would never know this. At the end of the day, I have to admit, only hardcore anime fans would probably know about
What's
this.
it called? Fruit Basket?
Fruit Basket.
Okay. Continue.
Fruits Basket is the... probably the only full drama anime I've ever watched that made me like tear up.
Huh.
Like, and from an emotional story. And one that...
What year is this? Or like when was this animated, do you know? It's like early 90s?
Late 90s
2000s?
to early 2000s at least. I can't say it being any sooner than that. It would take too long to find. But... to give you the basic general premise, it's based around this girl, Hanu?
Fruit, last name Basket.
She's just an average girl, but she's extremely, like, she's almost airheaded. Like, she just, like, doesn't, like, people come up and, like, bully her and be like, give me your lunch money, or give me your lunch. But she'll give it to them, like, being like, you're very sweet, here, have my lunch, I want to give it to you so you have food, you must be hungry. You know, it, like, doesn't see the evil in the world at all in any fashion.
Naive or just sees the good in people? They
treat her as naive in the whole thing, as if, like, she's an airhead and naive and that she would never be able to operate on her own, right, in the very beginning. And then what happens is she meets this family, oh my god, what are they called? I just dropped the name and it was just in my head. Doesn't matter.
The Miyamotos.
This family has a curse on them, and it collects 12 members of the family, and certain children born, whenever they touch a member of the opposite sex, they'll transform into an animal that represents the zodiac they're under. So if you're the rat and you get hugged, you transform into a rat. If you're, and it requires a large amount of physical contact. Like holding hands is fine, but like full like body hit or anything like that, poof. But yeah, like you turn into the dog, or you turn into
a snake,
or a monkey, or whatever, right? But you're also, if you're that person, you're like the personification of the personality traits that are tied to that zodiac. So if you're the monkey, you're extremely apologetic, but like to a ridiculous fault that you can't, you feel to blame for everything. And it's just part of being your zodiac that you are when you transform. And they're all cursed by this, and they can never touch anyone, blah, 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 right? And they're all tormented, etc.
I have no idea where this is going.
But what happens is that her mother and father have died, and she's abandoned, and she has no one except for these two friends who can't take her in, right? She's living with like this awful grandmother, and then she meets these people and finds out about the curse, which she's not allowed to do. But because she's so honest and so caring and so like airheaded, but actually like quite loving, like
Sweet girl.
she's not afraid. She just like she wants to help, right? And she actually ends up doing that, and through her being like this really pure, really good and caring person, it turns out it's not her being an airhead. It actually is that she's just genuinely a pure person who can't see the evil in the world and would just take everyone at their face value and believe everyone's trust. That she's the person to help all these people with the curse, right? Get past all their depression, all their issues, and all the problems they have from the curse that they have. And like as she comes around, she brightens up the life of this whole clan, the Soma clan. That's it. Who are all depressed and nasty and awful. And she just like starts changing their world and getting them out. It's almost like Beauty and the Beast, right? Like Beast was all dark and awful until Belle came along and like brightened his day, basically. And she goes to live with them, and it's their story of them just living together and her making their lives better every day. And the stories are so simple, like, you know, like Today She Cooked, right? And just like them living around trying to hide that with a little bit of humor. Excellent humor. Pure story based on good people, good heart, and getting past depression and darkness. Nothing else really happens out around that. And the thing is, every episode, all you do is you just learn more about Toru and all of her like wonderful aspects of her personality, and you start feeling better. Like you're that depressed person. Maybe you align with like the rat and his depressions and what issues he has and why he's so torn up. And then like she just breaks through them by being a pure person. And then like at the end of the episode, you're like, oh, it was a beautiful series.
Interesting.
Right?
And I'm assuming it's like a 12-episode series or something.
It's like 32-ish, maybe more, maybe a little more than that, maybe 40 something, I think, or maybe 30. It's short. The anime I found better than the manga. The manga is pretty loyal to the anime and the show, and it does just kind of drop off and end at one of the episodes, and it felt like it should continue. But it's pretty whole on its own, and it feels pretty good with where they get to with it. It's beautifully animated, even though it's very simplistic, wonderfully drawn. It's just a pure, really heartwarming story.
Not what I expected you to have on your list, Mike. That sounds.
I always remember it. I always remember it. No action, no nothing, pure drama, and it was like I watch that show all the time, or rewatch it maybe once a year, and it just makes you feel good.
Beautiful, Mike.
It's this little drama. It was amazing. I highly recommend it to everyone. And anime, not the manga. Just do the anime if you just want to get through it. The manga's a little bit long and gets a bit too, I want to date this person.
Oh, that's great. Okay, my next one. Parasite. Parasite's a great one. Parasite's
awesome.
Parasite's a recent anime. I never read the manga. The manga's older though, right?
I think it is older, and I didn't read it. Or I read a couple chapters, but I was like, okay, I'm good with the anime.
Yeah, the anime is awesome.
Oh, it's so good.
And as you know, if you're a regular podcast listener, I love Venom a lot. I always like the idea of something else inhabiting someone's body and then them having to get along. I don't know why I like that so much. It's just fucking. And you hate parasites, right? Doesn't that freak you out? Like, I love that concept. I like Blue Beetle from DC a lot too. The new one with the armor that's very invasive with him. For some reason that always just fucking intrigued me. I really like those kind of stories.
You want something inside your body.
Yeah, I want something inside of me, and then to argue with me. I'm never coming out. But Parasite is exactly what it sounds like. An alien host invades this body, but can only get so far. These things are they're invading whole bodies and taking over people completely, right?
Like in the beginning of the show, like they show them like sprinkling down onto the earth, and then they're supposed to jump into the head, but because he was wearing, they go in through the ear, right, or something, because he's wearing headphones.
Is that it?
That was it.
I don't remember now. It's been a while since I saw it.
He was wearing headphones when he went to bed, and it didn't get in through the ear like it was supposed to, even though it apparently can just drill. Anyways, it gets into his arm, but it can't make it all the way up to his head, so it just takes over his arm when it should have like taken over the head and killed him.
Taken over his brain, and then
yeah. And then these parasites can control and change the composition of the flesh they're in. So like pulling iron and making blades or extending.
Yeah, like really long, like almost think Carnage from fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah,
right? Like
totally.
Long symbiote type like tendrils and blades coming out.
Yeah.
And it's this story about him dealing with this parasite in his hand, basically. And him trying to get along with it, and like the parasite learning along with him, about humans, and like maybe they're worth saving,
and it's kind of like a self-protection thing, because like they're all selfish. All the parasites have like they kind of develop emotion over the course of the show, but as they like evolve and become a little bit more human, quote unquote. But like in Migi, his hand, like it has no connection to its other species, but because it doesn't take overhead, they all think of him as like an abomination, so they try and kill him every time they run into him because they can sense each other. Well, the head ones that like, and that's really creepy when the heads like unravel.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think that's where Resident Evil 4 got it from.
Probably
because the manga was around before Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil 4 infamously has the zombies where the fucking blades come out of the heads and they're giant parasites.
Probably very much.
I'm sure it was inspired by that.
It's a great story. It's
awesome. The action is so impactful. It's not like action packed in the way like Dragon Ball Z is or something, but like they're much more grounded fights, and like every fight feels like
Hunter with the thinking.
Yeah, and every fight feels like this could be it. Like something bad could fucking happen here. Like even though you know like you have 20 more episodes to go, it always feels like shit. Fuck, like this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Main character's endearing, even when he starts becoming, you know, like a dickhead a little bit.
There was a little bit of a point in between where he's constantly wondering if he was human. That was really annoying. Where he's like, "Am I human? Do I feel things?" And you're like, "You just watched your mom die. You can attach to emotional damage and shock and PTSD. You're not an asshole. Like I get it. You have an alien on you, so you're worried about the alien taking over. But the thing can't lie, and you know it's not lying to you.
Yeah.
So it's not taking over. You're in shock. It's okay. Like stop whining.
Yeah.
You know, other than that, like I again, the main character was endearing beforehand, and I actually really liked the change of him over because he was annoyingly a little bit too meek and like
he was very meek.
And I'm like, I don't want to watch you become like the brave guy, even though you slightly did that.
Well, he kind of becomes like he's like meek, and then he kind of becomes a douche, and then he kind of balances out at the end. Yeah. It's actually interesting character development.
Yeah, and then like once he gets a little bit of like, you know, it's again spoilers, like a little fused with Migi a bit more. Like he gets strength and speed and hearing and sight and all that stuff. Like it enhanced like a shit ton. Mm-hmm. And like he starts to join in on the fights a bit more, and it became very, very cool.
Fuck the tension in that series. Like even a lot of fights where because all the parasites are formidable foes. It's not like you get like a fucking a henchman of a fucking like Frieza or something where you're like, okay, they're gonna take him out easy. Like everything is like, oh fuck, like that guy's a threat. This guy's a threat. The ending fight, I don't want to spoil it, but in the forest, like that one at the end, holy fuck, great stuff. Highly recommend this series.
High tension, lots of like graphic kind of like fear. It was almost like it's like, and I know the manga is more of a horror manga like than the anime turned out to be. The anime did turn out a little bit more actiony. But it was a bit more of a thinking piece.
There's more like horror. There's horror into it because it's body horror, right? It's like it's horror in the way the thing is, where it's a lot of body modification of like these weird fucking images with faces and body parts and shit.
It's really cool, and it's a think piece sometimes through it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those ones you can't describe. It's just highly recommend to watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My next one is Serial Experiments Lane. I mentioned this one before.
Is this the one about the computer brain?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. You've told me about this. Otherwise, I have no idea.
Yes. This is a 90s anime from a creator who's only done 2 series, I think. But the only reason I put it in my list is that I still cannot get over his work. It's a very particular style that is very much in the style of anime, which is really, I love those ones, where you can tell it's broken away and it's very stylized to an artist in a way like Jonan Vasquez work is identifiable, or Joe Madureira's work is identifiable in comic books. Well, you have all those generic comic book artists who just kind of look like whoever, right? He defined anime into
I feel like style. That just offside, like that, I feel like that's harder to do in anime. A lot of anime
way harder
looks
to
generic,
do.
And when you see something that stands out, like Soul Eater even or something, right? You're like, oh fuck, that looks different.
It's way harder to do because the way that anime is set up for the placement of features and muscles and body and form, it's so already pushed and abstract that like if you take comic books and you want to push anatomy to be weird, you can do that. Because it's based on being as human realistic as possible, so you have the ability to push and break rules. But anime's already broken all the rules. So to make it your own style and still make it work, that takes some serious ass like work and practice to get it done. Lane is one of the very particular, but he also has this really interesting somber style to it. So Lane's not something I can break the story down easily. Again, it's a head trip, but think of it like the internet's grown to a point where everyone's hooked into it like on a major level. And Lane is like a person, but like is one of the ones born. Anyways, it's hard to go over it. Like she's like born able to control it, control the internet, and she can like live with this personality that's on the internet. That's her, and that's Lane, and it's like aggressive. And she's like on the internet, she's like a god. But the worse her real life gets, the more she keeps hooking herself up into it. So her room eventually just turns into nothing but computers and wires that she hooks up to the net with, and she just kind of hangs out in there. And she just keeps connecting to people, and each story is a story of a different person in the city who's over-connected to it and sees her, and like she kind of like experiences going through it, like a guy who like walks around with a set on his head all the time, and you know, like he sees her and keeps chasing her down, trying to find who Lane is and who this digital god is, etc. And like he dies doing it, blah blah blah. Like very dark, very weird, very head trip, very sci-fi, hard sci-fi story. Not like a cup of tea for everybody. It's just so beautiful.
It did. You showed me the opening, I think it was, and yeah, it was some nice looking shit.
Yeah. He did another series called Haibane Renmei, which was not nearly as good, but again, same style, same beauty. I have his art books, and it's just stunning work.
Sometimes people are just there for visuals, and that's totally fine.
And it's not even a visually stunning show. Like, there's not a lot of action, explosions, or grandiose scenes. It's all about these small, tight spaces. This guy lives in the core of Tokyo and knows how to draw that claustrophobic Tokyo crunch. You know, like, it was amazing. And then really, at the end of the day, if it's nothing but for a really good head trip and some really interesting visuals, you know, go back to those classic days of anime where they really tried to be heady and sci-fi. It's one of those ones. I give it an A+.
Mike recommends getting high and watching 10 Cloverfield Lane. What was it called?
Serial Experiment.
Serial Experiment Lane.
Yeah. 10 Cloverfield. And then
I remember one word.
And then, not John Cleese, John Goodman shows up.
Hey, I would take a John Goodman anime for sure.
It's just him eating a chicken really slowly over an hour.
You can't touch it until I'm done.
No.
All right, on to mine.
Who has high cholesterol?
I feel bad. We can't.
Who has high cholesterol?
Not him anymore. He's slim. He's a slim man now. Nah, he's still pretty big.
Yeah.
But he's a big guy. He's not big as in he's fat. He's lost a lot of weight. I want to make that clear to everyone, so you have the image of John Goodman in your head. Okay. I feel bad because I can't really go back and forth with you on these fucking Fruit Basket Lane animes.
It's okay. You don't have to.
No, I know. We can't talk about back and forth as much. That one just sounded interesting to me. Death Note. Death Note's a great one. Death Note is something I think almost anyone, even if you don't like anime, can get into.
Yeah.
It's such a cool concept, and it's like a murder mystery type thing, right?
I brought the mangas with me to Japan, I think, or on a trip, and Jed read through them. He just munched them down. Like, he loved it.
It's a cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
A detective and a criminal, right? Like,
and it's one of the better detective stories. Like, take out the fantasy component, just the detective, like the great minds fighting each other. This guy knew how to write really intelligent people fighting each other. It was like Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty fighting. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful writing since the days of old.
Fantastic series. I'm assuming you already know what Death Note is or you're listening to this, but just in case. Fucking a death god gets bored one day and they have notebooks they write in to kill people. That's what they do, to stay alive or something. He drops it down to see what a human would do with a death note. Kid in high school picks it up, Light Yagami, and he finds out what it does, and he uses it, and he eventually he's like, I'm gonna fucking get rid of all criminals. That's a great idea. And you're like, oh, that is a great idea. But I think another great thing with Death Note is it kind of becomes this like moral quandary of like, you're like, is that a good thing? I was like, because at first I was like, that is a good thing, and then he starts going like too far with it, and like it's justifying other things to not get caught, and like it's very interesting. It's
a show almost shot from the point of view of the villain, right? Because like it validates Light's position throughout the whole thing, like that his intelligence and that his capacity is he's one of the people who could do this methodically and correctly. He's one of the few people who could.
He always tells himself he's the responsible one, and in the hands of anyone else, this would be a disaster. But like with me,
and I mean, it does end up being a disaster. Like that's the whole point. Is like absolute power corrupts absolutely. Blah blah blah. But
also, his dad's a cop looking for him.
Yeah.
Twist.
Twist. A twist.
But yeah, I think that I legitimately think that series is so like engrossing that you could probably show that to anybody and they would probably be hooked within the first like 3 episodes. If they're willing to at least look at anime, I think that
for sure
you got it.
There's it's literally just think Sherlock Holmes with a magic book.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is, and it's one of the best battles between great minds for a long arc of the story.
Totally, and you get some fucking cool looking death gods in there and shit. Like I love the style of that show too. It's very like
it's funny, we were just watching that abridged episode of
Dragon Ball Abridged.
There are a lot of shots of like people reflecting in eyeballs in it though.
Oh totally, totally. That guy's the dude who does the manga. His style is very like gothic romantic type shit. It's very like a lot of pen strokes and
very very thin lines.
Yeah,
very
a lot of intricately detailed
Yeah.
roses and shit. Like, you know. Also, I love Death Note's second opening in the anime.
Mm.
What's Up, People? By, I'm not sure who the band is. I forget their name. But, like, fucking weird opening for that series.
Yeah.
Not really with the tone with it, but
No.
love that song, nevertheless.
My only disappointment with Death Note is that their parents weren't like hippies like fucking Gwyneth Paltrow for naming their kid Light. Like, if you're gonna name your kid Light, you better be some sort of wacky hippie.
Yeah, that one's a little, like, on the nose.
Yeah.
Also, love in the Netflix series that they're keeping the name Light, but Yagami's too weird, so they're turning it to Turner. Like, yeah, that's fine. Light Turner. Oh,
Light
that guy.
Turner.
Alright, next
He
up.
turns on lights. He turns around and turns lights.
Oh, fuck.
My last one on my official list is Mushishi. Again, you would never have known this one, and that's okay. It's on Netflix.
Sure. I believe you.
I told you, I have like off-brand kilter hits.
I know. I didn't expect them to. I didn't expect for me to have not heard of 4 out of 5 of them, though.
3.
Which one else did I know?
You
I knew Full Metal and
you knew Attack on Titan.
Oh, you didn't talk about that one yet.
I didn't
Okay.
talk about that one yet?
No.
Oh. So it's not my last one.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, well, that's my other one.
Okay. Spoiler alert.
But this one's Mushishi. We're going to hit on this one really quick. It's on Netflix. I highly suggest checking it out. But it's a story of a medicine man, basically, in current/feudal Japan. What he does is he walks around and deals with these creatures called mushi, which are like parasitic, not parasitic, they're like bacteria, basically.
Okay.
They're tiny little like microscopic creatures that can sometimes compress and comprise large whole creatures. And they're like spiritual creatures just outside of the view, and only certain people called mushishi can see them.
Uh-huh.
And he goes around treating people for their effects, but their effects are always really interesting. So like a boy walks around and he's always constantly cold and his body temperature is like almost 0. And everywhere he goes, it just starts to snow a lot.
Okay.
And everyone's like, this is a cursed child. And it turns out that this bug has gotten into him.
Okay.
And it makes him emotionless and painless and feel nothing.
I'm on board so far. I think this is cool.
But he like is freezing the town, and it's been a perpetual winter for years.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes, and the Mushi she has to treat him, and it's all about him treating him and getting him past it. But there's always this little juxtaposition sometimes that like whatever the mushi is given the person as part of like them infesting the host, it's like sometimes like a gift, and they don't want to get rid of it, and he has to convince them to do it, otherwise the cure won't work, and stuff like that. Or sometimes it just doesn't work. Like one of them was a shadow that constantly follows this girl around, and if it ever touched her, it would just eat her. And he had to like try and prevent that, right? And the girl didn't follow the instructions and got eaten by the shadow.
Idiot bitch.
Yeah. And so like sometimes his cures just don't work. Right?
So is it just him going through
It's just
like
episodic.
just people just constantly? There's no like
is him
overarching thing where like
there's another season is one where there's an overarching thing discussing his background and why he's particularly special at treating him and stuff like that, and that he's got abilities that others don't have. Why he's like one of the best.
That sounds interesting.
The first season is just literally him walking town to town, curing people and the imagination that goes behind the effects of what these little bugs do to all these people is ingenious, based around old folklore or some moral decision or something like that. It's ingenious storytelling for each creature.
Mike, I think you convinced me to maybe watch this one.
It's
that
extremely
really cool.
slow, and there's no combat or anything like that. It is super slow. Like, there's a lot of scenes of just like a fucking water thing going gunk, 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 for like
You're
a
pulling
while.
me out of it, Mike.
Yeah. No, I gotta warn you, because like there are some points where like it is super slow.
It sounds cool though. Like,
But I got hooked on it because this is the best time. Was I was super sick and I just wanted to turn something on. I turned it on.
that's the best time to watch anime because I don't. Again, like as an artist or just as a fucking person in this generation, I feel like we're always picking up our phones and like looking at shit, and or me and you were drawing or whatever the fuck. And like I watched. I initially got into my next pick, Hunter, when I was sick. I was sick and I just didn't feel like doing anything at all except for I just want to lie there and watch TV. And I could read all the subtitles and just enjoy it. And it was like, that was fucking great. That was awesome. Because I wasn't paying attention to anything else. I had no need to want to draw, phone, to look at my phone, nothing. So.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we can move on to your next one. But yeah, that's the best play. I turned it on when I was sick, and it was so slow and so calm and so methodic that me sitting there going, it just went away. And I was just like, this is so calming and nice, and he's gonna fix the people, and oh well, what a neat lesson, and
I'm learning.
and kind of fun, and then we watch the next one, and he'd pass out and it didn't really matter, and then you watch the next one, etc. Like it's a really, if you want to calm yourself way the fuck down, turn on Mushishi.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, might give that one a watch.
Yeah. So your next one's Hunter.
Hunter. If you didn't know, we already do a fucking Hunter podcast where we cover.
If he ever comes back and starts making more fucking manga.
Yeah. So we're covering we're covering the manga as the chapters release, and it hasn't now for almost probably a year. Yeah. So we're both big fans of the series.
Huge fans. So good.
It's an awesome series, and like I said before, like if you grew up on Dragon Ball and you are accustomed to all the tropes that happen in there, all the power leveling, and the villain did this, and then there was a big giant power struggle, and smoke clears, and
but you wanted
he's undamaged, that kind of shit.
But you want an intimate breakdown as to why it didn't happen.
Yes,
like, this is the key to Hunter that makes it better is before they ever got into any of the Nen powers, which are like the energy powers they have. The combat was always really carefully broken down. Like they're standing in front of each other, and instead of doing the and staring at each other, he goes over the mind discussion of what's happening right before combat happens. Like if I step left, I won't have enough leverage, and my height difference will make a problem. But if I plan it out that I go here, I can see that I have a weaker knee, and I can get behind him, hit his knee, and then I can actually get to his head. Right?
And that makes it sound slow, but it's not.
It's not.
Actually, occasionally, maybe.
Yeah. Like the End arc was a lot of like they had one.
Sure, but I mean just like a one-on-one combat makes it slow, but it's not. It's very intense.
Yeah, and sometimes the combat will happen really fast, and they'll go back and be like, "How did that happen?" And it turned out like it was this really complex set of moves, right? Mm-hmm. In one of those anime, they disappear in a blur and appear back moments. They'll suddenly go back over it and be like, "Well, in that second, Killua actually grabbed one guy, stabbed him into the other guy, then flipped around, kicked the other guy, put him down into the other guy, and then electrified one, jumped down, took a branch, and stabbed and threw it into the other." Like, and you're like, what? How did he do that? Like, you're just like blown away by like breaking down the strategic moves these guys are doing. But then that evolved into the powers, because when they started getting energy powers, I was like, fuck, Dragon Ball, here we go. But instead, they were refined down to an intimate system.
Oh my god,
broke it down.
Yeah, the Nen system is crazy.
Nen is broken down to like a martial art of itself.
There's like 5 different categories, and like you're really good at one, and you could be good at the one across from it, but you're pretty shitty at the other ones that are surrounding it. And like, there's just all this interesting stuff, and the way that he even like, as soon as you say like, oh, there's a transmuter and he can do this, you think of something, but then he thinks of a way to make a transmuter do something that like you're like, wow, I would never have thought of that.
Like, and then it also makes the characters more interesting when like a villain or even a random character pops up and goes, I'm a transmuter, and you're like, oh, what do? You like make a fucking clown, and then like their ability is based off of this deep imagination that they spent so much time exploring to make a really interesting ability based on who they are.
And another cool thing with the series is that Gon starts off as this typical like happy-go-lucky protagonist, and you're like, I know Gon. I know how Gon's gonna be at the end of the series. It's gonna be fine. Like he's just gonna power through everything and endeavor, and like he'll just be happy. And like that's not really the case. He's not even like a good person, really. He's kind of shitty a lot of times.
He's a shitty person a lot of times.
Like he's selfish and he does what he wants, and like that's another weird thing to see in a series for the main character to go from like happy-go-lucky Goku type character who's like, I'm always doing good, and then like he makes a lot of selfish decisions. He doesn't even in the last arc of the anime, I don't want to spoil too much, but like he doesn't even see the main villain. Or he sees him from a distance at one point, but has nothing to do with him. Yeah. It's not like a showdown between Goku and Cell, or Goku and Frieza, or Goku and Boo, Goku and someone. It's not that. It's very interesting the way he makes that play out. Even Killua, the assassin character, and
that's the thing too. Like even the side characters and their motivations are all really interesting. Like Killua is from a family and a place of just evil and general
pure assassins,
right? Like the killing is their thing, and he is too, but he just wants to be different, right? And it's just about him trying to do that. Right, and it's very kind of heartwarming. Like Killua becomes, I think he's pretty much the fan favorite character.
I would say so.
Yeah, because like you kind of like you watch him grow and evolve, and like get past his family and the programming, and the sheer mental and physical abuse he's endured to still maintain who he is.
Well, and by the end of the series, he's the one with more of a heart, I think, than Gon.
By far. Yeah. Like Gon spends most of his time like abandoning him, and Killua's like, I know there's this moment where I can't be.
We're best friends. Like, why are you doing this? You convinced me to be best friends. Like, that's what we are. And it's.
And then like he's always seen that moment where he'll like Gon will no longer need him, where he can't stay with him anymore, and he's like terrified of that moment and all that. And Gon's just like, whatever.
Yeah, and then there's no like just battle of beams in this series either. No. It's all like Mike was saying, like intricate fights and everything matters. It's just a really cool series. Lots of cool villains. Awesome villains actually.
Awesome
like
villains.
Fucking Hisoka, Evil Clown Man, all the Spider Troop, all like the ants, a lot of them anyways.
No, a lot of the ants, not all of them.
Greed Island people, I guess. But yeah, Hunter is an awesome series.
I hated Get Through for the bomber.
Yeah, I'm Greed Island.
Bad design.
Yep, I agree.
Like, he just wore a coat, and he's just like, I'm scary because I make explosions. And you're like, your power is scary, but you're a moron.
Yeah, not really intimidated by you.
No.
I personally wasn't a huge fan of the Greed Island arc.
I like the training component of Greed Island because they finally showed how to train Nen beyond just, like, powering up and stuff. Yeah, like, all the, like, you need to learn all the forms. So, like, here's how you learn how to be a transmuter and, like, making the numbers and shit. Like, that stuff was brilliant. And developing their powers and all that. But, yeah, once they got into the fight...
Again, I don't know how, like, for... Akira Toriyama, the guy behind Dragon Ball, for him to, like, he literally forgot what Super Saiyan 3 was at some point. Like, he was like, oh, that's a thing? Like, I forgot that I drew him with long hair. And, like, I don't know how this other guy, Tagashi, the guy behind Hunter, I don't know how he fucking keeps it all straight in his head.
Yeah.
Does he just have a fucking crazy whiteboard with a bunch of, like, you know, like, yarn connecting everything? He's like, yeah, that's right, I remember all that.
There's a reason why his arthritis is so bad.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, fuck, what... Great guy. Also, he's married to the person who made Sailor Moon, so he could just stop doing anything ever. Yeah. He could just fuck off and not do it, but he's still making it, which is, again, it's a work of passion.
Yeah,
so.
He's got a vagina that just makes money.
Spits out cash, so yeah, he's fine forever.
You know, that's like the thing from Family Guy where he has Bette Midler, or what was it? The other one. Oh God, she would the first episode.
Betty White.
The first episode of Barbra Streisand.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I was going to say the first episode of South Park.
Right, yeah.
Babu Raya. Where he makes the joke where, like, she blows money out of her nose.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Big, right? Instead, it would just be like, you know, can you have some money? And then open.
Queef. All right, anyways, yeah.
Well, the thing is, Hunter's actually quite financially successful now, too, so he could just bend over and give a good... like a shot of money in a cloud.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, it's a great series. We have a fucking podcast on it. Yeah. I recommend you go watch the anime because it's very faithful, the 2011 one, and then just catch up to the manga and then go watch or listen to our podcast.
Yeah, or watch it on YouTube. Well, my last one, as I said before, was Attack on Titan. This one is so popular, I don't think we need to talk so much about it.
No, there are giant things that they fight. Yeah. They're giant titans.
It's one of the most ingenious series next to Hunter that's come out within the last decade. It's revolutionary in the way that it's never been seen or done before in context. It's graphic. It's intense. That opening sequence for season 1 makes you just like want to cheer humanity on. You're just like, yeah.
Yes, it's a great series, great cool animation, interesting style,
very interesting stuff with thick lines.
Yeah, a lot of really like interesting looking stuff. Just even the way the guy draws the Titans isn't like it's not like a giant Hulk. Like Marvel's Hulk, it's these weird like faces and kind of off-putting, creepy,
like almost giant babies sometimes.
Yeah, they're like naked men with like balding hair rings and like just.
And as a neat, really creepy juxtaposition to them was that like there's these giants that come in and they're consumed with trying to eat humans, and then they'll eat you, but they don't like eat you. They don't want to like they don't digest you in any fashion. They just vomit you back up. Mm-hmm. The moment they said that, I'm like, these things are fucking weird.
Yeah,
like, they were weird, but they're not coming in and just like nom nom nom. I need sustenance. They're just killing and then vomiting you back up.
Yeah, they're fucking. It's a neat series. My only complaint about that series is I personally think it's oddly paced.
So is the manga. So
I'm also like shocked it was as popular as it was because of that. Because I feel like there are just long sections where they just talk for too long about nothing in particular. It's not really driving anything home. It's just like
it's the peak of intensity, so it has a high point and a low point with very little middle.
Yes,
so,
that's good.
Like during the action sequences, right? Like it's like you're like like you're so like fucking like the first time you see Levi or Levy, do like his spin thing where he just like annihilated that one Titan.
Yeah,
you were just like. And 3D maneuver gear and all that shit, right?
It makes you think humanity can have a hope against these fucking things.
Yeah, or you see Eren turn into the Titan for the first time and it's so angry, it's just punching heads right off of things.
Breaking his arm.
Yeah, anger is just his power, because like Eren's an angry fucking dude, and he's just like, rah! And as hard as he hits, it just eviscerates his arm and the head in one blow. Yeah. Because he's punching that hard.
So cool. Yeah, he breaks his arm when he does it.
So cool. But then in its epic points, it drops down really far too. Like it's just because it drops you down so far. When it hits the highs, it's like, wow, this is a real low. What?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just what? It's like a roller coaster with really hard turns that never stop.
It is, yeah. Like I feel like the sister character, like she spends so much time worrying about Eren. Like I'm really concerned he's not eating and all this shit. I'm just like, I get it. You're concerned about your brother. Like that is fine. We're lingering on this point too much this episode. That kind of thing. But honestly, I didn't see a lot of people. Maybe that's just me. I didn't see a lot of people talking about that with that series. I basically only saw people praising
because
it.
the backstory and the history of the Titans is probably one of the better kept secrets. Like, they're finally starting to reveal it in the manga, but the whole reason as to why all this is happening is so foreign because the anime just starts with walls and giants.
Yeah.
With no explanation of what's going on.
There's a mystery to it, right?
Yeah, and then it turns out that, like, 5 episodes in, it's a mystery to them as well. They've just been living in these walls, and there are monsters.
Yeah, we gotta go out of there, and there's fucking weird naked men in those fields.
Yeah, and giant women, and all sorts of stuff.
Not great.
No, it's not a good place.
It's not a great place to live.
Really?
But yeah, no.
Of course, if I was a person, I'd walk up and like look over and see all that, and be like, I get why we built the walls. I'm gonna go inside.
Yeah, that's not worth it.
No, that's not good.
No, well, there is some cool stuff going on with politics in the inner cities and stuff, and I like all of that. It's not that I don't like it. I just think it's paced strangely for me.
It does. It goes from high. It doesn't go like highs and then a little bit of mid combat and then like an escape route, and then they get out of the city, and then finally they're like able to rest for a bit. It's like, nah.
Yeah, you're right. It's peaks and valleys, right? Like, you're right. It's a roller coaster ride. Yeah. But yeah, awesome series. Like, highly recommended if you haven't watched it already. Although I assume you have at this point.
Yeah. So for quick drops for the last of the honorable mentions that I want to drop in, because there's not a lot of tons to say about them. One of my favorites of all time is Trigun.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Amazingly funny comedy in the beginning, revealing to a very deep story, to a very heartwarming character.
I never finished that series, but I enjoyed it.
It was very good, and it was really interesting to watch. Like, it had, and the mystery behind it was really cool. And then my second honorable mention, simply for some of the best combat scenes I've ever seen for giving a sense of power. So in a lot of animes, eventually when they get so powerful, they just do the, like, Bleach did this all the time. They're like, oh, it's called Shunpo or Flash Step, and they just kept going and disappearing.
No, yeah.
And you're like, oh, they're going really fast. You don't know when they're going to hit. And then it's like a sword strike, and they hit, and they wrestle swords against each other going, yes. It's hard. Like, Unlimited Blade Works, specifically, of the Fate series.
Okay.
Has incredible combat systems. So you get these two spirits, and they're supposed to be these super strong things. Instead of having them disappear or anything, the fights actually happen, and you see all the moves and stuff, but it's so fast and so well animated. But the impact in the fight, you're like, whoa, I'm gonna get hit by that. That's a strong dude.
What's that called?
It's Fate, but it's called Fate Unlimited Blade Works. There's 4 different series in the Fate series, like 4 different timelines of different scenarios that happened.
Interesting.
And there's Fate Stay Night, which was not the good one. I feel
like I've heard of this before.
It's Fate Unlimited Blade Works is on Netflix. Or even just Google up the fight sequences. They're insane. Then there's Fate Zero, which is the prequel story to all of that, and there's another one. And it's just all different, like, timeline stories for these characters, and, like, the story is just basically based on these mages who have to summon these 12, or these different noble spirits who have to fight each other to try and get the chalice to get a wish granted, basically. There's a lot more to it than that, and it's a lot darker. But incredible combat sequences in that. Like, I rewatch them all the time now. There's, like, 4 fights. The Lancer versus Archer fight, and Hercules, the Berserker versus Saber, is so good.
Interesting, okay.
Such frenetic, high-paced sword fighting where their swords are like clank, 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 and they're actually not just doing like 1, 2, like kendo, like just smack the sword down. They're like sword-style fighting, and the impacts look so intense that there's these 2 really powerful beings like smashing into each other.
Interesting. I want to give that a shot. I at least want to Google it to see like.
It's just the fight sequences. Like, I mean, story-wise, it's your generic magic battles, and like that's it. Some people like the story a lot more than I do, but
the stakes are very high.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, my 2 honorable mentions are One Punch Man. If you haven't watched One Punch Man, go do it right now. One Punch Man is about a man who could punch anything once and dies. Yeah. That is it. That's it.
And his boredom based on the fact that he has no challenge because everything dies in one punch.
Yeah,
that's literally the show.
It's more of a comedy series than an action series, but it has some good action moments for sure.
Some great action moments.
And some endearing side characters
Plus,
as well.
He designed the show so well that all you want to do every episode is watch him use one punch.
Yeah, it's always we're going to that moment. You're like,
is he going to punch? Is he going to punch? He punched! That's it.
Yeah, awesome series. Go watch it if you want to have a laugh and a little bit of action. And the other one I want to give a shout out to, which...
Him chasing the fly was so funny.
Yeah, that was good shit.
Like, he's just like this super powerful thing, and he keeps on trying to hit it, and he's like moving around like Bleach or Naruto, like trying to hit the fly. And
yeah, you just need to watch his not his struggle, but like no one believes he's that powerful. No. And like he like aced this exam physically, but then he was like too stupid to fucking pass the written part. Like great shit. And the other one is it's getting a second season soon. Apparently, Mike just told me that. I'm going to watch that. It's My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
It's more of a typical shonen series, but the main character is very endearing. He's a kid who always wanted to be a hero. Everyone in this world is born with powers. It's very rare if you're not. He was one of the ones who was not born with a power, but he's always wanted to be a hero, and it's kind of like heartbreaking for him. And you get this kid's plight. He gets given a power, but he cannot control it whatsoever. He's supposed to be super strong, but like if he tries to punch something, his entire body breaks, kind of like gone in the end of Hunter. So he needs to learn to use, like, when he's going to do something, he's like, I need to, like, in the heat of the moment, like, you get the kind of, like, Hunter thing where he's thinking about, like, okay, how am I going to do this? I'm going to, like, try to just with my finger block this one thing, and then this finger is useless for the rest of the battle, and then, like, or his whole hand or something, right? So then he needs to think about, like, how he's going to use it, otherwise his entire body breaks. He can't go all out and just punch someone, and then otherwise his fucking arm's dead, you know? Shit like that. Very cool. A lot of new relationships with the hero and his mentor character and his rival.
It's coming up a lot. Like, I haven't watched it yet, and it's actually on my queue list of first things to watch when I finally sit back down and watch anime. But everyone who's watched it doesn't relate it to a typical shonen. Like, everyone enjoys it in the way that, like, Hunter's a typical shonen, but it's also not. It breaks those tropes in a way, and it becomes very enjoyable. My Hero Academia, everyone contributes in the same way, being like Hunter, you'll enjoy this because it deviates from those tropes, yet it still fits into your shonen lineup.
It does, yeah. It's interesting. I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to because I was very hyped on it, but it still was very enjoyable to me. And I think if you like that kind of show, then you'll enjoy that.
Yeah. So
and that's it. How do we do, everybody? We recommend the right animes? Yeah. Let us know. You can email us at
gmail.com. We own Gmail.
Gmail.com. We own Gmail. Have you seen that anime? The Gmails? The Gmail? Meetpensandpixels@gmail.com is where you can ask us questions, comment on our fucking anime tastes, call us weebs, whatever. You can find me on Twitter at TheCalG. You can find Mike at MikeKentDraws. You can find Pens and Pixels across all social medias. Pick your poison.
Yeah. And you can, of course, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to us on SoundCloud, or drop us a rating on iTunes. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube if that's your preferred content provider. Cal does nice stuff with video, plus some of the visuals that come along with our thing are popped up on there. Of course, be sure to spread love, write us a comment, give us any questions or answers or any of that stuff.
Please give us the answers.
Give us the answers. We don't have the answers. We just sit here in a room and talk, and then we leave, and then we turn on the TV, and then we come back together again on a Friday, and we talk.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
That's a good summary.
And don't forget to join us on April 1st at CGX, or the Capital Game Expo. Cal and I will both be there. So if you're interested in meeting us or seeing some of our artwork, we're going to have some Popcast artwork up, and actually a mutual piece that I'm working on right now that I promise I finish this time.
1 year later.
1 year later. So yeah, you can come and check out our work or come and meet us, or whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Nande Nande yo. Gone.
Kilowatt.
Kilowatt.